Ready when you are.
Good evening and welcome to the May 1st, 2025 meeting of the Town of Southampton Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and also via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law 14 of 2022. Our next meeting, and those following will also be held here in person at Town Hall and will continue to allow for remote participation. So please keep checking the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's meeting only and not participate, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website for viewing access. With that, I'd ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you with us here tonight, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall from this room. We'll begin this meeting with public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it's their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find you're having difficulties accessing the hearing, visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Also, for those of you in this boardroom, please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another as it interferes with the recording of our proceedings. Tonight, board member Helen Burgess is participating via Zoom and John Leonard is absent. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking other than attorneys will be sworn in and state their address for the record and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. In order to consider properly every application before us tonight, individuals commenting on a particular application have a time limit of 3 minutes. Also, before handing in any submissions to the board tonight, please make sure that documents identify the ZBA application, name, and tax map number. The application name should also be written on your certified receipts. Unless otherwise stated, at the end of an individual application hearing, all applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a set date. Those written comments can be addressed to the members of the board and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall to the board secretary, Candace Cowell, in the building department. At this time, I would like a motion to approve the minutes of our April 17, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bob, would you take us through the agenda for the evening?
Yes, first, case 6 on tonight's calendar, 625 Butter Lane Homestead LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-51-1-17.7. We're going to move to adjourn that matter until August 7th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then we're going to go to the decision calendar. The decision calendar for Brian Neginger, sorry, if I messed that up, to accept written submissions. We're going to reopen the meeting to accept written submissions, huh? It's online.
No. But maybe it's not. Let's go back to this. Tyler Eddy.
Sorry about that.
That's on there, though.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Okay.
Not
Strike
your-
that. I make a motion to reopen the application of Tyler Eddy to accept written submissions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I now make a motion to close for a decision to be rendered later on this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now make it, the decision of Denise Sokolich will be adjourned to May 15th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I now make an application to reopen Michael Stone and Dorothy Stone to accept written submissions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Susan, for the reopens, can you just do everybody separately?
Oh, okay.
Just remember, because it has to be unanimous, it's easier to just do everybody separately.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I stand corrected. Okay, let's do it again.
I make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Ruben?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Chair votes aye. Okay.
I now make a motion to reopen the application of Kevin Chisholm to accept written submissions.
Second.
Wait, now you have to close that one.
I make a motion to close Michael and Dorothy Stone for a decision to be later rendered this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I now make the motion to reopen the application of Kevin Chisholm to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Ruben?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I now make the motion to close for a decision to be rendered later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, I now make an application to reopen the application of Solaris Trust and Janet Solarius Trust to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Ms. Ruben? Mr.
Aye.
Ruben? Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Chair votes aye.
I now make a motion to close with a decision to be rendered later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now, back to the beginning of the agenda, we have case number 1. Felkus Sabatovich and Brianna Trust, 27 Treadwell Lane, 900-4-1-87.20. Do we have the applicant?
You have to read it first.
Oh, applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-6, general regulations that references 33011, residential districts, table of dimensions regulations for an accessory distance from a street setback from 70 feet to 65 for a proposed sports court on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
So this is a request for a minor variance, which does not require a public hearing. So we are going to close the matter and be ready for a decision later tonight. Is that
Second.
correct?
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Mr. Redmond?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Votes aye.
Now we're on number 2, Hans Decker, 439 Hayground Road, 900-83-1-2.2, Bridgehampton. Applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-9D4A, density incentive provisions to allow a lot area of 47,545 square feet, where a minimum of 60,000 square feet is required. 1.5 times the 40,000 square feet is required for the conversion of an existing one-family dwelling into a carriage house on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Mr. Benacasa, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Earl Benacasa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, for the applicant. The extent of the relief being requested is, as mentioned, pursuant to 339D, which is a provision in the code allowing there to be 2 dwellings on a property, provided that one is deemed a carriage house. The reason for this request is that the existing home, which is approximately 2,300 square feet in size, is a historic structure, which is currently seeking landmark status. An application is pending with the Landmarks Board. It is the Cook House, which was erected circa 1760. I have some pictures of the Cook House, if you'd like to see them. You can pass this. If you'd like, I can circulate or distribute specific images. But this is a report on the conducted by the town with respect to this historic district.
Is this for the record, or what is this for?
It can be. It's just more informative about the house and what we're seeking to do. So the Cook House is, again, erected circa 1760. The intent is to landmark and preserve it, and then to develop the remainder of the premises with a home all conforming to all dimensional regulations. No variances are needed for that house. The only variance needed is that under the code, in order to qualify as a lot capable of having one of these carriage houses, the lot needs to be at least 1.5 times the permitted zoning, which here, this lot benefits from R40 zoning. So in other words, this lot needs to be 60,000 square feet for it to be as of right enabled to have one of these carriage houses. And as you know, the lot is 47,545 square feet. So that's the extent of the relief. The intent is to landmark this structure, build a home behind it, all conforming in lot coverage and dimensional variant, dimensional setbacks. No pyramid relief required for the structure. But again, in order to have this carriage house, we need relief from that provision of the code as far with respect to the lot area. I mentioned it before, but there is a pending application to landmark it. That is a condition of getting the carriage house, that we landmark it. So that's in process. You are further along than that board is. So certainly you can condition any relief on obtaining that landmark status.
Is there a transfer development right involved here?
An extinguishment of development.
That's what I meant,
That's part of the
extinguishment.
landmarking process.
Okay, so part of landmarking.
Yes, not here. That would be part of.
You're not asking for an exception to that in any way?
No, no way.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they would grant landmark without.
I don't think they would do it without
Yeah,
extinguishment.
no, absolutely not, yeah.
We're not asking for any relief there, just that lot area component.
Bob, this is yours. Do you want to start off with any?
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions.
I actually went to see it.
It's beautiful.
It's very old.
Very old.
Very old. And there are a number of structures that are going to be demolished as part of the whole project. I mean, there's like a little garage and there's a shed that's attached to the back of the house and stuff like that.
But they're not historic. Yes.
No, that's right. They're not historic. The property is lovely. It's, it's well screened. I don't see any problem with, I think, it's sufficient size. It's not small, but it's not huge. But to me, I don't have a real problem with this.
I didn't have a problem with it.
Excuse me.
All right, but wait a
Wait,
second.
we didn't get there yet.
We're talking, we will ask for people to comment from the audience, so don't worry. You'll have your,
Okay.
She's not even talking about this hearing. She's talking about me, another hearing I have. She's not even about this.
oh, all right. Well, I don't know what that's all about, but okay,
We'll get to you.
we're going to proceed with this particular application right now. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, do we contingent it upon landmark, or how does that work?
Yep, you can condition it, because I think it'll take a while to get through landmarks, and then I think the town board has to landmark it too,
Yeah,
probably.
it's a whole
So
process.
yeah.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, we'll just put it right in there.
Okay.
We've submitted for that. We don't have a date before the landmarks board, nothing like that.
What's the purpose of coming to us first? Is it just to
Well, we
check
just-
it off
it's
and then?
two-
so-
two
yeah. No,
specific
two separate
aspects of
things.
it. So
Okay, you're ready to do it.
We filed both simultaneously.
Okay.
So I have something, but I didn't know if Helen, I'm sorry, I didn't know if Helen had.
Ellen?
No,
No,
but
okay.
that,
So, this is a helpful discussion, and I appreciate having a little bit more understanding than my initial reaction, which I thought was a really big house. And what I'd ask you to consider is if you're taking some of the non-historic parts of the project down, and as you create that mess and the rest of the development, that you upgrade the septic system on the historic structure, which I presume a rational person would want to do anyway.
Yeah, I'll certainly talk to him about that.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
I wonder what sort of septic system we have.
Well, if it's 1760, it's probably not doing very well anyway, and an upgrade would be a worthwhile thing doing.
Well, I would,
Perhaps, well, obviously, the new structure will need one, maybe
Yes.
just tap into that.
yes.
Well, I'll leave that, but there's an opportunity to, if with all of that's going on, this would be
I think,
everything that's been asked of you in the past, this would be an easier thing to say yes to.
I have no problem with it.
Okay,
You can
thanks.
say yes.
okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on
On
439,
this application.
on 439 Hayground Road?
oh, Hayground Road.
Yes.
I think it's wrong.
We're on
We're on
439.
the first one.
I don't have a.
Oh, okay, okay. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard on this application?
There is, and I'm bringing them on now.
Okay, good.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Meredith Berkowitz from the Bridgehampton Civic Association.
Let me start.
I just want,
Are you an attorney?
Yes.
I am
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Say your name again, please.
Meredith Berkowitz, and I'm from the Bridgehampton Civic Association.
Okay, go ahead, Meredith.
So I just wanted to say that we're generally we actually discussed this property the other evening at our board meeting, and we are generally very supportive of the fact that they want to landmark this house. And so I just wanted to say that, and we would only just ask that, as it seems you're going to do anyway, that landmarking the carriage house be a condition of any variance that you issue. Thank you very much.
It will be. It will be. Thank you, Meredith. Is there anyone else on Zoom who wishes to be heard?
No one else.
Did you say yes?
No one else.
No. I thought he said uno.
So do we, Katie, do we close it, hold it open? How do we do?
You could do the, like you normally do, close it for written submissions, decision on 6/5.
We're looking to close this meeting and hold it open for written submissions till May 16th with a decision to be rendered on June 5th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. Okay, next.
Number 3, Michael and Marika Schaub, 21A Gardner's Lane, Hampton Bays, New York, 900-323-1-28. Applicant requests the following relief from Town Code Section 330-34, Business Districts, Table of Dimensions Regulations. 1, for a proposed pool, an accessory rear yard setback from 50 feet to 30.2. And number 2, for a proposed equipment shed, an accessory rear yard setback from 50 feet to 10 feet on a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Michael, would you introduce yourself and state your address, please?
Good evening, everyone. Michael Simlensky, the Simlensky Law Firm, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, 11976. For the Schaub family, who are the owners at 21A Gardner's Lane in Hampton Bays. This application is basically to provide for a swimming pool. This is a single-family residence that's located in an RWB zoning district. As this board is well aware, that southern portion of Hampton Bays, the whole swath of it, is an RWB zoning district. And most of these houses that are there exist without the benefit of the special permit that would be required in RWB for a single-family house, so if you were to try to build it today. That being said, that this is a house that was part of a larger parcel that was divided over time into 3 parcels. This is the middle of the 3 parcels there. My clients, the owners of the property, have a multi-generational family at this point that's growing, and they're looking to install a pool in what ostensibly is their backyard. The RWB zoning district has some unique setbacks because it is designed to be a commercial district and not a residential district. This is a 15,000 square foot lot. If it was an R15 zoning district, we wouldn't need any relief here because we'd be talking about a setback that's 10 feet. What's interesting about the RWB zoning district is it requires a 50 foot rear yard setback and a 0 foot side yard setback, interestingly enough. So what we've done here is we've tried to comply with not only the R15 but also the R20 and R40 zoning districts for what would be a residential development of this parcel, and we're asking for relief from the 50 foot setback from the rear property line down to 30.2 feet for the installation of the pool. Now we've separated the pool from the house. As I mentioned, my clients are entering into that multi-generational thing where their children are in their early 20s. Their grandkids will be on their way at some point. So at some point, this would be a phased development where they're actually going to add on to this original structure to add another bedroom. And that's why we're leaving space for that. It's not in their budget at the current time, but we want to leave space for that so they have the ability to do that. They can't go out, even though for accessory structures, it's a 0 foot setback on the sides. For the principal structure, it's a 50 foot setback, which means there's a 0 building envelope here because it's only 100 feet wide. So we can't essentially go either of those 2 directions to the side, nor can we go closer to the water because of the front yard setback. So any addition to the house is going to have to go back in between where we're proposing the pool and the current house structure. This all started. This all started because there was a question about single and separate. I think that's been answered, but I would ask for, as part of the additional relief, that it be declared single and separate from the other parcels, because the original parcels came into existence in 1959 as opposed to 1957. They've all three of the parcels that are in a row between the street and the water all have had the benefits of COs. All have had the benefit of COs since some of them since the 50s and 70s. They had a string of permits from the board. But when we originally had applied for the pool for the turndown letter, they had said we needed single and separate relief.
Did you come here for single and separate already?
It was part of our application. It was part of our application, although I think it was deemed it wasn't necessary to be noticed as part of the application tonight, and it can be done as part of the additional relief
As necessary.
Yes, Mike had called me and he had said, oh, this wasn't advertised as single and separate, but it is in my application. He did list it. He did submit the single and separate search. I had called Candace and I was like, by the time we renotice it, they'll have another 2 weeks. So I said, just put it in under any other relief necessary. So, but just go through that analysis for the record.
That would be
sure. I definitely can. The lot in question was deeded. It was deeded into existence in August 8th of 1958. Lot 1, which is the street, was deeded to George N. Schutt, 8/8/1958. And Lot 2, which is the subject parcel, was deeded 8/8/1967. And that's where the chain of title starts. So there was that common ownership there. From 1967 until 1971, it was owned by George Schutt. And from 1976 until 1978, it was owned by Donald Schultz, who was the son. I think there was a death in the family, and it went there. However, at that point, there were two houses on the property, and they both existed with the benefit of COs from the building department. They've always been used in single and separate residential use, and they were not used in conjunction with one another.
Separate tax bills?
They had separate tax bills. As far as we can go back, they had separate tax bills. The county tax system is currently down as far as doing that. As far as being able to search prior to, I forget the date it was, but we have pulled all of the discards from the building department, and they've always been from the tax system receivers, and they've always been billed as single and separate residential parcels.
And separate deeds?
There are separate deeds, yes.
Separate tax bills, separate.
Yes.
Never.
Is that something that you could submit as part of written submissions?
As a written submission, yes, we could. We can go back and find that. Yes.
You said that it was 15,000 square feet. In the application, it says 17,000. I just wanted to clarify that.
I will clarify that. In 1967, there was a transfer from Lot 3 to this current lot of 20 by 100 foot spot on the water side of the property. So it went from originally being 15,000 square feet to now it's currently 17,000 square feet.
Okay.
So it's 17,000 now.
17,000 as it sits now.
And can you just tell me which is the rear? Is the rear yard where the proposed pool is?
Yes,
I was having trouble figuring out which was
the rear yard is where the pool is. On the water side is where the front door is. The house is oriented to that. It's one of those.
Not on the water though.
No, it's not on the water, but
It's water side.
On the water side is where the front door, the front entrance is. The rear, the house is oriented towards the water.
Okay.
So can I just ask you a couple of questions? So other than the aerial, which is helpful when you drive in there,
Yep.
it's a little hard to tell what neighbors have done. Like, is this consistent with the character of the neighborhood? Because there's a lot of vegetation and a lot of fencing, which in general could be a plus. But this is gonna, not a technical term, really max out what's going on this property. Especially since you're also saying at some point you're gonna seek to make a construction addition, not a pool, and an accessory structure. So I am very interested in whether this really is consistent with what's going on in the neighborhood.
Sure, the lots are all of similar size.
Yeah.
The vast majority of lots, if you're looking at the aerial from overhead, you'll see that a large number of the lots in the neighborhood have the benefit of accessory swimming pools. There's one that's directly next door. There's one that is just to the northwest of the property, and in fact, that one has the benefit of a variance. That one happens to be a front yard variance, but it's very much in keeping with the neighborhood. We're not asking for a resort style pool. We're asking for an 800 square foot pool. It's not outside the norm of a residential construction here, despite the fact that it's in a RWB zoning district.
So my other question, and Katie, I might need your help here, because I feel like I might be jumbling up concepts, but you're here for the relief that we've discussed, and you were telling us there's also going to be a request. Well, there's also going to be an addition to the home at some point, which may or may not require relief. I don't know. But if we flipped the order on this and you were trying to do that addition now instead of a pool, would that require relief? And I think the reason I'm asking is, are we sort of leapfrogging in a strange way and getting you ahead of where you might need to be on relief that would be required for construction?
No, the construction. The reason why we've left a space in the area we have is because it won't require. There's no plans. My clients haven't drawn up plans or have architectural renderings of what an addition will be. They just have a idea that they have a couple children. They will at some point be married. They will at some point have grandkids. They will, the bedroom that the children currently share will not fit all of them at some point, and they're going to look to make a modest addition. What space is available there basically would accommodate a 15-foot addition and some pool decking around the pool, none of which would require relief of this board.
But if we were to say to you, can you require less relief by moving the pool closer, it would scuttle the plans for the addition, right?
Yes. It wouldn't scuttle those plans. Those plans are may not ever get built.
Yep.
Depending upon, there's lots of things that intervene. They're looking for the construction of a swimming pool for now, and those plans are somewhat in the future. The residential plans would not require a relief. This does only, and this requires relief only because it's an RWB zoning district, and you're talking about a 17,000 square foot residential parcel in that RWB zoning district.
Okay.
If it was R20, what would be the setback?
If it was R20, the setback would be, I believe, 20 feet.
Okay.
And at
So-
R15, it's 10 feet.
Yeah. So what he's saying is that if it were in comparable area,
Yes.
he wouldn't even be needing
Yes.
to
If
come
it was
before us.
R20 or R40, we would not need relief.
Yeah,
Okay.
got it.
Well, and I also wanted to add, I had mentioned this to Mike when we were talking about the single and separate, because Candace had reminded me, Town Code 330-115D, which talks about the single and separate and all of the different, variances that you get in terms of, setbacks, also does provide accessory structure setbacks. Typically we do the 3 times 4 tenths for the principal, but it does also provide for accessory structure setbacks. So if the board found this to be single and separate, which it sounds like we have the evidence and Mike will submit it, it does it based on lot area. So lots between 0 and 39,999 get side and rear yard setbacks of 10 feet. So this would well exceed the rear, right?
Right.
And the side is 0, but you're giving a what?
We're
15
at 15. We're at 15
Yeah,
feet.
so in all, had we initially just looked at this as a single and separate, we wouldn't have even asked for variances for this.
Okay.
I have a couple.
Sure.
So I did visit the site, like Julia must have, and thank you for explaining the relationship between the lots, because when I went past the subject lot, it was like, okay, these guys really have to know each other very well to be this cozy, and that it sort of explains it. So just a couple of things real fast. Right now it's a family compound in effect, right? between all
They're
the,
all separate owners.
I understand that, but they're functioning as, are they not?
No.
Oh, okay,
No,
okay.
All three lots are owned by three separate families.
Unrelated
Yes.
and not even friendly, okay.
Well, I wouldn't say they're not
I'm sorry,
friendly.
that's.
Good
my-
neighbors.
My
I
attempt
don't
is-
want. I don't want to start a neighborhood war.
That's my attempted humor in a hearing I shouldn't be joking at. So the only issue I really have is, right now it's sort of it's still under a construction site and there's no screening at all on the driveway. And can you speak to what you think, your sort of like screening purpose, or what you think that'll look like as one goes down the long flag lot to the house closest to the water or the first one? Because it's an interesting layout, but it's right now, there's essentially a construction fence, if I'm not mistaken, and it's pretty open. And I understand why, right? You're going to build a pool, so you want it open. But speak to what's going to happen at the conclusion of that.
I don't think that there is currently a plan. There's
Okay.
obviously there's going to be a pool barrier system there,
Of
pool
course,
fencing.
yeah.
But I don't know what the landscaping plan is for my clients as of that. The only person it affects is the waterfront parcel.
Yep.
The front parcel doesn't use that driveway. They don't
Yeah.
have, it's only the waterfront parcel that would lack that. Right now that the width of that driveway is more than the actual right of way.
Right, okay.
So there's no intention to infringe on that, but I don't know what kind of screening they're going to propose, if any. It may be obviously it's their backyard. They're going to want some privacy.
I would think.
The privacy issue is more of theirs than it is the owner of the property that's on the water.
Well, that's why I was wondering, was there a relationship? Because I was just curious about how that was going to be provided for. And then, this is not a got you question, but it's pretty easy to see today when you go to a site, especially one that's still sort of in construction, whether or not there's an old septic system or the newer clean water septic systems, advanced treatment ones. And I didn't notice that, and I think the survey shows a septic tank, and I don't know if this is an old survey that the structure was popped on. And considering you're so close to the water under the circumstance and you're still doing other work, I'd ask you to think about whether that should be upgraded and even apply for the town and county grants to do so.
The septic, I think part of that construction fencing is because the septic tanks were upgraded at some point.
That's great. If they were,
I don't know if it's an IA system or not. I do know that those septic tanks are located on the opposite side from where the pool is proposed. But if they were to move forward at some point with any changes to the house, it's going to have to be an IA system based upon its location. And I don't think they would have any objection to that.
Have you heard from the neighbors?
My clients have talked to the neighbors about this, and they've received no objections whatsoever.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on 21A Gardeners Lane in Hampton Bays? Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to be heard on 21A Gardeners Lane in Hampton Bays?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, Julie, this is yours.
So we're going to close the public hearing, leave it open for written submissions until May 16 with a decision slated for June 5. You're going to submit to us the evidence required for single and separate?
Sure, absolutely.
Right.
Second that.
Ms. Kane. Aye. Mr. Mastroniak.
Aye.
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Michael.
Have a good night.
Number 4 on tonight's agenda, Gregory Luthow, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, 19 Bellows Pond Road, 900-221-2-8. Applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-115D, continuance for a total side yards from 40 feet to 27.91 for proposed addition to a one-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Are either of you attorneys?
No.
Okay, let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please separately state your name and address.
Sure.
Gregory Lothrow, 19 Bellowspoon Road, Hampton Bays.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Okay, French, thank you.
Okay. Did you get it? Okay.
Stephen Keller, 17 Keeler Street, Huntington, New York, 11743, architect.
You're the architect. Okay, Stephen, great. Okay, so tell us about this application.
Would you like to start, or I'm happy to dive in. We have a pre-existing non-conforming lot and house, and we are in the neighborhood, both to the south and to the north, of other pre-existing non-conforming residents. We're looking to add on to the house, and we are here before the board for relief on section 330-115, D like in David, parentheses 1, where we're required to have a 40-foot combined side yard. And we come before the board this evening with 27.91 feet.
Okay, this is Helen's. Does anybody have any questions about this application?
So I have a couple.
Okay, go ahead, start.
So I live in Hampton Bays. I've driven Bellows Ponds Road 1,000 times in my life. And I went to the site, and a couple of things were striking. One is some of the houses in the neighborhood, as you well know, are, you have a neighbor to the north whose house is probably 5 or 8 feet at best, right?
To the north, it's 5.2 is the closest.
Yeah, so it's close on both sides, and that sort of seems generally to be the character of the neighborhood. But your lot's pretty deep, and it's not my business, but it's a question of the wider side of your yard is going to be 17 feet. If you ever wanted to do anything further in your backyard, with a 17-foot width between your property line and your house, it would be a great challenge. And you're the architect and you're the owner, so I'm sure you've thought of this. But that's sort of the reason for why why the town code has a combined 40-yard setback, so that there's distance on one side if something has to get into the backyard, emergency service or whatever the case may be. Is there any reason why you're just expanding sideways right on the front while you have such a large area in the back still to accommodate some of those needs?
Yes. Mr. McDonald, you can see the highlighted area in green.
Yep.
And that whole area is left in its natural state as a requirement of the lot. So over 60% of the backyard is taken up by the.
No, I'm good.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Is that the clearing restrictions?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
understood.
So with the pool, we had, and you could read it in our application to the zoning board, we had considered what a detached garage would do. But it has such a small open area for the kids to play in. It's, Gregory had asked to bring the garage forward and attach and come before the board for relief. So it's really, for the homeowner's enjoyment, for his kids to play in the backyard. There's just this little area between the pool and the house. This is the existing house, existing deck, little existing concrete patio. For the kids to kick a soccer ball and run around. What age?
Yeah,
is sort of the children?
just one more thing. There's also a fire pit right here as well. So it's even, the space is even smaller. So yeah, you look at it, you think it's a 25,000 square feet lot, but it's actually much smaller because of the 40% non-disturbed area.
And to your point, Mr. McDonald, we have a lot of property, we just can't touch it.
Because it's in the aquifer, or because there's a buffer on it, or? It's in the, you're in the aquifer protection zone, okay. So you're only allowed whatever has been previously disturbed.
Well, you can't put structures in that, but
No,
clear.
You can't disturb it.
You just
You
don't
can't
go.
clear it, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you don't,
can't
you
disturb.
don't, no,
Touch
yeah,
it.
you don't even go there. I mean, it's like we call it, like the kids call it the tick area.
I have exceptionally high confidence to say that children can run in the aquifer protection overlay district areas that require natural vegetation.
However-
I can tell you right now that in the span of, we bought the property back in 2017, we moved it in 2018. In those 6 years, I must have been bitten maybe 10 times. Like, this is serious. And my daughter got one just right here, just because they were playing baseball here. The ball went there, she went there, she had one on her head 2 weeks ago. This is like, we're not going there, nobody's going there.
And you can't kick a soccer ball in there.
Oh, you can.
Point taken. I can
So
see,
what
I
you're
can see
asking-
that, yes.
Well, you're
it's
asking
really-
for, because you're entitled to 40 feet,
Yeah.
you're asking for 12.1 feet
right.
of variance request? Okay, let's just put that in
Yeah,
perspective.
I was just wondering if there was
Okay.
another way
Yeah.
to accommodate that, that's
Got
fine.
it. Any other questions? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on 19 Bellows Pond Road? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, Helen, this is yours.
Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing, leave it open for written submissions to May 16th with a decision on June 5th.
Second.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redhand.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you. 5 on tonight's agenda, 2297 Montauk LLC. It's been held over 7 meetings. 227, okay, don't read it all? Okay. Good evening, members of the board. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Just wait 1 second while I get my papers together. You can introduce yourself, however, Brian.
Brian DeSessa, for the applicant 2297 Montauk LLC. How are you?
Good.
Good.
It's been on for a little while, so I wanted to talk to the board about a few things. I was under the impression, I was told that resubmissions had been sent to the board. Checked earlier this afternoon with Ms. Cowell, they had not been, but I want to give the board a brief update as to where we've been
Okay.
and get some direction from the board, because the board here is our first stop on this process. So, and we will get a EAF in so we can coordinate SECRA on the adjourn date, which we will ask for. Since you've last seen this, we've revised the site plan application, which I'll submit full copies of tomorrow. I have a copy with me now. To now only require one variance, and the one variance being, I will submit this, the one variance would be the location of affordable apartments on a first floor versus a second floor as required by the code. So we're proposing, pictures, this is the new site plan which was sent. The apartments are on Church Street. So Church Street is a residential neighborhood. So we're proposing 3 affordable apartments per the code fronting on Church Street. So they're not on the second floor, which is what the code provision says. So the variance that we would currently require would be just to allow us to locate affordable apartments on a first floor on Church Street. No dimensional relief is required for
On
that.
second floor, not first.
No, we're locating them on the first floor.
Okay,
They're on the
sorry,
first
I'm
floor.
sorry.
The
Yes,
code requires the
absolutely. I
second
got
floor.
it.
We're looking to put them on the first floor, so
Okay.
you walk in on the first floor.
So you're not now asking, maybe I misunderstood it's not my project, it's planning, but, so you're not asking for 2 apartments anymore, right? In other words, I thought you were asking 2 previously, but now you're gonna do the 3.
3. We fit 3. So the original application asked us to provide 2. We were asking to provide 2 apartments where 3 were required. We're now providing 3 apartments, so that
But you want
is
them on
no
the first
longer-
floor?
Well, 2 on the first floor, 1 on the second, but still, the code reads that we would need relief to locate those
On the first floor.
where they are
Okay.
because of the first floor.
2 first floor.
And all the other dimensional relief that had been previously requested has been eliminated.
Okay, good.
Okay? We went to the historic board because this is one of the first applications.
Just the location of the apartments?
Correct.
That's it. And we have 3 required?
Correct. Yep. I'll hand these in because I'll submit new copies, but these are the new
Make
renderings.
sure Candace says, did you give some to Candace?
I'll give her this set.
That's what one said?
One set.
Let the board look at it first, and then June, when you get it, I'll
So
say.
Okay.
we went to the historic board, they wanted to be more similar to what the building had previously looked like before it was taken down with a demo permit. So we've redone that, we've resubmitted to the historic board, but this incorporates all of the comments that they had had at the time as to the style and design of the building.
So the style has changed.
Drastically, to, as you'll see in there.
Is
No variance
this,
relief for any.
is this the byproduct of that conversation, or is this, you still have others?
No. This is the product of going to the historic board,
Fine,
doing a
okay,
pre-app application through planning already, and incorporating all of their comments from both.
okay, I
perspectives to come back.
just wanted to be clear on that.
By the way. Now, I
There
will
there was one question though about access.
Well, I'm gonna bring that up.
Oh,
now
okay,
because
good.
I-
Okay, 'cause
the
that
app-
was-
The application you see now.
Yeah.
Requires no variances for access. However, Martha Reichert, who was supposed to be here this evening, who represents the neighbors, has seen the new plan. We've given her the new plan and everything. And the neighbor's plan would now like to go back to our original plan, where there's a two-way street on Church Street, only used for the apartments, which I am not opposed to. We're happy to do that. It also raises planning issues at the time. But however, it does also increase the number of variances that we need. Because now, instead of having a one-way street, I need to have a two-way street and two-way parking. And so for the apartments where they are, it's now gonna get closer to the residential neighbor's property, and I'm gonna need dimensional relief from this board to do that. Which I'm not opposed to, but she wanted to come this evening and speak to the board about that. I'm open to either. You had tasked us to say, reduce the amount of variances that you need and come back here. You did. You did that.
Martha's here. I think
well, she
she's
was
on
gonna
the
come
Zoom.
and talk, so-
Yeah.
She can speak
Well,
herself.
we're gonna hear from her.
Well, I'm just being fair, because that's what our conversation was.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to changing that to just allowing residential on the church side street.
Okay,
We
but
can't
what would be
subdivide
the
the property.
variance request at that point then?
You're gonna go back to dimensional relief for citing the building and the parking and the driveway closer to the residential lot, similar to the original application, because a one-way driveway is not as wide as a two-way driveway, which then I have to then meet my required parking just in the back for that, which I'm okay to do, because the neighbors want it to function as residential and commercial, which we're happy to amend that, but
Yeah.
we've been amending for a year, so I kind of wanted to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
this board's feedback to say,
Yeah.
look, if you're willing to give more variances to effectuate that, I'm happy to do it. But also at the same breath, you asked me to reduce all the variances and I'm down to one. I don't feel it's unreasonable. It's not a dimensional relief. It's just locating them on the first floor
Right.
versus the second floor, so.
Well, that might get addressed in secret too, when we coordinate with secret, the planning board may say this is, not preferable or whatever.
No, but
Yeah. Martha, do you wish to just state your name and address, please?
Sure. Martha Reichert, of Toomey Latham, Shea, Kelly, Dubin, and Cordovaro, 33 West 2nd Street. I represent a group of neighbors. I want to apologize to Brian because we were supposed to meet to talk before the hearing, and unfortunately, I had a dead battery. So I'm very grateful that the town has the Zoom option because I'm here, but I do apologize because Brian and I were supposed to also talk a little bit more. We have been talking, and one of the things that we want to sort of bring to the board is that the neighbors and Mr. DeSessa's client, I think we can achieve sort of a harmony for everyone by keeping the area that will have the apartment as residential as possible. And one of those things would be sort of eliminating through access and commercial traffic onto Church Street. In our previous submissions to the ZBA, we had noted, we had retained Greenman Peterson to do a preliminary traffic analysis. And, Church Street isn't suitable for that level of commercial traffic, but because, I'm in front of the zoning board right now, and so I think that one of the standards that you look at is about the character of the community. And while the current application reduces the number of variances, it is almost at the expense of the very residential neighborhood. And we have, again, this property abuts a residential district, and so what our clients have continuously sought, and I think that the applicant is willing to accommodate it if this board is amenable to it, would be something closer to the original design or the one that is in our one of our letters where our traffic analysis contained, a conceptual design where the part of the property that has the apartment building would really be limited to use and parking by the residents of the apartment building. I think that as the town creates more affordable housing, et cetera, I think it's great to preserve that the residential nature of not only just Church Street for the other residents, but also for the people who will live in this affordable housing. They should get to feel like they are somewhere residential. And by not having all of that commercial traffic going past their residential building, I think that that also enhances the quality of life for those residents. And so, in my initial discussions with Mr. DeSussa this morning, which were supposed to be a little bit more fleshed out prior to the meeting, that was one of the things we want to bring this to this board first to see whether or not, before the applicant goes and redesigns everything, how this board perceives, potentially having more variance relief, but one in which it's more in keeping with the residential character of Church Street and addresses all of the, sort of community complaints and concerns and where it would have an impact on the neighbors who have, from the very beginning, really just sought that there wouldn't be commercial traffic coming out onto Church Lane.
Martha, let me ask you a question. The neighbors, their feeling is, are they prioritizing having the access be limited to the apartments versus additional setback and other relief that might be required? Which is their preference?
Correct. They would support additional variance relief if it kept the residential aspect of this project and the apartment building as residential as possible and limited that traffic to just the residences.
Our position on the board is generally to grant the limited number of variances that we can. So it kind of,
Yeah, can I chime in?
Go ahead.
I don't really know if we have any say in the flow of traffic.
Look, this plan eliminates variances. We're getting the 3 apartments. I could tell you I have absolutely no issues with putting one of them on the second floor and 2 of them on the first floor. But this issue, and I get what Martha's saying, we've dealt with this road on other site plan applications. These are commercially zoned properties sitting on this road. I mean, that's the zoning on these roads. So, and we get mixed use developments in these commercial where we have residential and commercial mixed in. We don't usually have separate access points from them. I'm not suggesting that it wouldn't be good to do that, but I'm not going to make that recommendation to this board outside of the planning board reviewing it, because when we do our referrals and we do the secret review, we're going to get comments from an engineer, the fire marshal, this person, that person, and so we deal with this all the time. People don't like the decisions we make about access. We tell people you can't make a left turn going onto Montauk Highway. That's what we do. So that's what the planning board does. So I appreciate what Martha's saying and the neighbors, but we have to look at that and make sure that it makes sense.
Has the planning board seen this?
Yes. We have a pre-application
We did a
process.
pre-app
has gone
report,
through.
which made recommendations. So I suggested to Brian that we get this over to planning, but I would do it through the secret coordination because you guys are also have a pending application that we have to do secret on, but I would coordinate and let planning board handle it.
And any planning report that came from that, we'd all benefit from that as well.
But in terms of the secret report, I need to know, because right now my secret report is going to focus on the review of the application with 1 variance. If we're going to change the site plan to go over there,
That's a discussion between you and your client.
No, but I'm just saying. So, like, what do you?
Which way are we going?
I'm asking you guys. I'm happy to do it either way. I talked to Martha and told her that. But I want to know, like, I'll amend it if that's the direction we want to go for secret for the planning board to review it. Otherwise, are they reviewing it this way? They can't review it both ways.
Here's the challenge I'm having. This is just a legitimate planning question. I worked in Bridgehampton for almost 25 years. I know Church Street and I know all the complex issues that you're grappling with on the board, right, in the planning board. I think we need a planning board recommendation for how to reconcile some of these issues before we decide what's the best variance package, if one could call it that would address some of these. I mean,
I don't disagree, but traffic is a planning issue, not this board. Planning is going to say, you have to go to the zoning board because we can't do these things you're asking for. So I just want to know which plan.
I hear you.
That's where I'm stuck at. Like, I'm happy to go with either plan.
They
work for us.
The burden at this point is not on the applicant. The applicant is willing to circulate either plan.
Yep.
They're looking for some guidance. So we're not waiting for the planning board to tell us which plan to circulate. All of these issues are going to be fleshed out one way or another through SECRA.
Right.
And as
Um,
Bob said, should be our preference to grant the least amount of variance possible, right?
That's generally as a board we like to do.
Conceptually?
Yeah.
And more than
And-
conceptually.
And again, that doesn't mean that it's not gonna go to the planning board during the secret, and the planning board's gonna say, there's a huge traffic impact based on this plan.
Right.
You know, planning board may say, change it then, but they need to know what
Just tell me
plan.
which plan I'm happy. I'm
Yeah.
happy to do either plan, just tell me which plan you want me to go back to them with.
I prefer the least amount of variances possible plan.
Well, if I could just make a statement on that, I mean, that is that's one out of 5 factors that the zoning board looks at. The first one, right, which I would say is arguably always the most important, is whether or not the relief granted has a detrimental impact to the character of the community and to neighboring properties, right? So while I recognize that zoning boards generally also look to see whether or not the variances they are granting are the least amount possible, that has an interconnection with the other factors. And here you've had from the very beginning, adjoining property owners, residential property owners who are in a residential district that abuts this property, which is, right, in a commercial district, vocalizing their very strong concerns and saying, we would support additional relief because it would preserve the character of their neighborhood and their nearby properties. So while I appreciate Mr. Macedonio's, looking at whether or not this is the least amount of relief possible, that is only one out of the 5 factors that the zoning board considers when they engage in their balancing test.
Yeah, but remember, Martha, the application, and again, this is by no means that this project's gonna be approved, but the application that would literally be before this board right now is an application to allow 2 apartments on the first floor. And if you do the 5-part test about that, it's not gonna be because there's traffic. I mean, that, everything you're talking about are site plan issues. The application before the board is whether or not it's in the character of the neighborhood to have first floor apartments versus second
It's the
floor.
location of the apartments, that's it.
Right.
Right.
Everything
Well,
else
and
is
it's
eliminated.
also, it's not just the location of the apartments, it's taking it out of the commercial building.
Locating them on the first floor.
Locating them on the
That's the
first
same
floor.
section, it's.
Right.
Well,
so
in a
instead of
separate
being
building.
Above the commercial building, it's located in the back of the property.
Outside the building, on the first
Outside the building. I'm actually, kind of thinking that this is something that we could, particularly if the applicant is willing to consider it. I think that the preservation of the residential character of the neighborhood is important. And and if if the neighbors are telling me that they're not as objectable to, minor setback, variances, I don't see a problem with that. Now, whether we want to leave that up to planning board and have them come back, but I'm, of a difference of opinion.
No,
You guys
I'm
want to
okay.
stick with the less, that's
I'm
fine,
okay
but
either way. I just generally like to have the least amount of variances possible, but I am okay either
how
way.
many variances have you reduced at this point?
Just one now. No, I've gone from 5 to 1.
Okay.
And I anticipate, because we've looked at this based on our conversations, I'm gonna be around 6, including parking variances.
If you went to the
Make it-
plan that they're requesting.
Correct. Because I have to make the driveway wider, I have to which pushes the building back. I have to locate the parking for all those apartments in that back and not count it as shared parking, because we have a through, right? You have a total parking plan.
Right.
So I'm gonna locate everything just on that southern third, which we've looked at from the engineer, which fits, but it brings it closer to the eastern residential neighbor, which they're consenting to on the call here, and I'm not opposed to doing that, but in order of magnitude, it's,
How many parking spots do you need for the apartments?
I need, they're 1-bedroom apartments,
Right.
so I need a minimum of,
3.
Oh, come on.
I
Can't
need
believe
a
it.
minimum of 3, and we provided an extra if someone wanted to have a guest, or there was a
Okay,
couple.
so
that
you
didn't
need
wanna-
3 parking spots.
A minimum of 3. I mean, we were gonna provide, we have 6 in the plan because they're 1-bedroom apartments. If you're a couple, you have a friend.
No, I get it.
People don't want to park on Church Street, right? So I provided parking for that. So it would be 6 spaces is what we would show.
Ryan, did the landmarks board opine on the variances, or they just were looking at the look and feel?
They opined at the look and feel. They opined, because originally one of the variances was for the size of the front building, just where it was located. That was eliminated, so that scale came down. The box shape of the building and its massing came down by now putting on putting on porches and bringing
But
in
if
those
if you changed it to, you know, to address the neighbors' concerns, would the landmarks board?
The building stayed the
object?
same. No,
Okay,
because
so the
it's just,
landmarks board is
the
happy
variances
with
deal,
this plan,
the extra variances I
notwithstanding.
need would be dimensional for like shifting the building 2 feet.
The setbacks, the side yard
Moving the
setbacks.
driveway over,
Okay.
that kind of
And you
stuff.
stay, with the additional variances, you stay with the 3 apartments?
Yes.
So I could go either way, and.
I agree.
I'm pretty flexible on this, but my bias would be, I would prefer the planning board give the clearest guidance on what's the best design for the hamlet and the community and their known sensitivities, and then come back to us with what's necessary to make that work. That's just me. I defer to my colleagues.
I mean, Susan, I think you raised a fair point, which is there's more than, and Martha, you too, there's not just a single consideration about the least amount of relief possible. So
Right.
it's a tricky one.
And that's why I asked whether, you know, your clients are more inclined to, you know, look
Well,
for setback variance versus.
Yes.
If I can make more
Don't worry.
one point, I think it's too simplistic to just distill it to the number of variances, because the one that is needed to take the apartments, whether you want to characterize it as being on the first floor or a separate building, is the one that does have the most impact, because it changes, right? So if there was no variance relief being sought, the apartments would be within the commercial building, which is going to be in the location where it is. So there wouldn't even be this sort of, so I think what I'd like the board to consider is the fact that we're supporting
I disagree.
the affordable housing. We're supporting it being out of the commercial building, which gives the developer, the applicant, the benefit of that additional commercial space. But what we're asking for is the preservation of that residential characteristic of Church Lane.
Okay, let's see if there are people in the audience who wish to be heard. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this matter? Come up to the podium. Are you an attorney?
No.
Let me swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address.
Carrie Leitzes,
Can you spell your first and last name for me?
Cary, like Cary Grant, Leitzes. Cary, Leitzes.
Okay, Carrie, tell us your comments.
I'm 58 Church Lane, so I'm the abutting property. Has anyone been and seen the lot?
Yes.
So you've seen the grade, how it slopes down? I'm very concerned about the water erosion and storm plan. That is my biggest concern, is the neighbor. So I would just like to understand if I will be able to have a civil engineer review those plans once that's ready.
They have to keep their water on their property.
I know, but the water, all of the field of grasses was cut and that land was graded. So the absorption of the water has changed and the runoff is different now. And I'm
But yes, the town engineer looks at plans, right?
He will eventually, you have to get a application approved here and to the planning board, so we
There's
can
no
get
dry wells,
engineered
there's no
draft.
drainage, there's nothing.
Those will be available for the public, and they could send it off to whoever they want to review. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
But we have to get an application.
So I will have the ability.
You'll have the opportunity, yes.
Okay,
We're just
Right now, it's a cleared
months away
site.
from it.
yeah, okay. So that may be another, obviously there's an issue now, so.
Yes, we don't even have a new application yet,
That
but
would
yes,
be
that's all part of it.
I mean, there's a water issue now.
Oh, all right.
And that would be before the planning board.
Well, that would be code
So it'll be before
enforcement.
the planning board, yeah.
You would contact code enforcement
Okay,
if you've got an issue now.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to be heard besides Martha on this app?
One other thing.
Oh, okay, sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
Sorry, when the parking lot goes in, so you see how close my house is to the lot.
6 inches.
Basically, yes.
It is, her house is 6 inches
So-
off the property.
So the lights, it's grandfathered in from, was
No,
built.
I'm just letting them know where it is. I agree.
Yeah, no,
Legally,
it is.
absolutely.
So
the lights from the parking lot, I don't know if it can be considered that they're thoughtfully designed so
That's
that they
all.
won't go into.
So we, in planning, also get a full-blown lighting plan that will
Amazing.
have all the photometric data.
Amazing.
And so we will, and it'll show if there's any spillover, but we will make sure.
So they
there's
could
no-
do maybe even low ones instead of high
100%.
ones.
You will not have lights shining
We
in
will
your
not
house.
have light shining on your
No,
property.
that would be a bummer, because I actually had a huge rat problem because of the water, because of how it ate away at the erosion of the foundation, and it was really
Okay.
a very, very stressful
Okay.
We're not gonna
experience.
have lights shining into your property.
And, you know, eventually this property will be developed and hopefully all of that will go away. Anyone else? Anyone else on?
The neighborhood has a very strong feeling about the preference of the variance versus the barrier.
Yeah, we are.
We got it. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
Yes, one more person.
Oh,
Hi, Meredith.
Meredith,
This
I have
light.
to swear you in again because
She's
this
an
is a.
attorney.
I'm an
Oh,
attorney.
that's
You
right,
don't
you
have to
told me you were
me.
attorney.
I'm
All
just
right,
gonna move
sorry,
over so
Meredith.
the
Go
sun is
ahead.
also behind me. So I'm trying to just get rid of that sun, right? Hold on. So I'm Meredith Berkowitz, and again, I'm here on behalf of the Bridgehampton Civic Association. And we have a vested interest in this property and the revised plans because we were part of the co-sponsors of the new Main Street Historic District, which is obviously something that we care deeply about and want to make sure that all of the provisions are adhered to. One of the things I wanted to mention is that part of what I hear in the discussion going on here is the problem that we see often as the Civic Association, which is the chicken and egg problem, and that applicants come to the ZBA before planning has really gone through. And Anthony can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the pre-submission that went through the planning board was a very different design on this building and plan than what is now before you here at the zoning board.
You know,
And
I
it-
haven't reviewed this plan,
The
Meredith,
architecture of the building, yes.
But just let me speak to that issue. If we do a good job on our pre-submission conference reports, we get significantly revised plans as a result of it. That's if we do our job and you take our pre-submission conference report and you completely change your plan, we wouldn't bring them back to the planning board to reevaluate that. We would reevaluate it and say, did they comply with the pre-submission conference report?
So tell me
That's
where
why
you.
I'm saying in this case, if they went ahead and said, the pre-submission conference report said there's too many variances, the building looks terrible, we want this, we want that, we want the 3 apartments, and they went ahead and did that, that's gonna mean something to the planning board, has to. Because we went through all the trouble to adopt the report.
Yes,
to
and
identify
it
it.
sounds like they've adopted a lot of the suggestions
All of it.
that you had.
Yeah.
But I don't think
I
you
didn't
had,
think-
did you have in your pre-application report, did you have anything about the access?
I'm not sure, it
Okay.
wasn't my project, but that was
Okay.
one issue I don't recall.
Okay.
Probably.
I don't know if it made it into the report, but it was definitely discussed at the planning board. And there were some considerations that, I want to share, which includes that Church Street, and Martha is well aware of this too, and that Church, or should be, because I think John was the attorney on it at the time, but there was, Church Street is designated in New York State, and Chair LaFaro, she knew a lot about this issue. It's like a non-major road by New York State, and so you can't widen it, and you can't put in like sidewalks or anything on Church, and so there was a lot of discussion about concern about the flow through traffic for the commercial building, then exiting, this one-way flow through exiting onto Church Street. And again, as the Civic Association, we have a lot of members who live on Church Street, and they have shared with us their concerns about safety and about introducing all this new traffic onto what is a very small and narrow back road country street. And so I wanted to share that, but I think that the other points I wanted to just quickly make is that, sorry.
No, so just.
It's a
This-
two-way street, but it's very
This
small.
revised plan, just so I understand.
Two-way access to Montauk.
Hold on. This revised plan, so I understand, where you're asking for the one variance, shows only access onto Church for those apartments?
No, what happens is there's ingress and egress on 27.
Okay.
Then there's the building and the main parking in the middle of the lot. Then there's an exit only onto Church Street.
Okay.
So they
and
can
that's-
either leave on Montauk Highway or they could leave on Church Street, and it's.
But what about the residents in the affordable housing?
Hold on,
They
let's
cannot-
let
they have to-
Meredith finish.
Currently, they have to enter through
They have to enter through Montauk Highway?
Correct.
Okay, all right, that makes it a little bit harder for me.
Right, that, you're making some of the points I was going to make.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, is that it seems a little, the residents would then have to come in from the highway. They can't enter from Church, but commercial traffic can exit onto Church. And so I think part of this issue is that planning, and what I was going to say is, I don't know if it's possible for you to adjourn this or to put off making a decision to allow this to go back to planning with this new plan, and let planning vet it, and let planning, hold its public hearing on the application, and let the comments be dealt with at planning, and then have them come back. Or if the decision is to make it, the issue, as Katie said before you today, is just the separate is just locating the 3 apartments in a separate building. And then let them go back to planning, even with this plan, let planning vet it. And if they then need additional variances, come back. I don't think that, you necessarily have to make the decision today based on how many variances they're asking for. Right now, they're only asking for the 1 variance. And I understand that whether the neighbors are supportive of that variance, whether we as the Civic Association are supportive of that variance, is tied, very intertwined with the setback relief. But planning may also say, hey, you may not need setback relief. Maybe the building has to get made slightly smaller so that you don't have to worry about the extra parking, so that you don't have to worry about, the setbacks from the street and the pyramid relief. We don't know any of these things yet, and I'm just not sure how the zoning board can make a fully informed decision on this variance without having that information. Thank you.
Are you looking for guidance as to what you should submit to the
I want to
planning?
move forward to planning. We
With it-
spent
with
a
an-
year redoing this, and I'm happy to go either way, but I'm just trying not to lose time going forward, right? So then the neighbors say one thing, the Civic
right,
Association
so-
says something else, and I'm
so-
stuck in the middle.
Okay, so what you have so far is just the 1 building with the, second floor, first floor issue, and the driveway going both ways.
Driveway right now just exits on Church.
Just, driveway both ways on Montauk, 1 way on Church.
Correct.
And, all right, so if we were to say to you today that our preference would be for you to do, separate the accesses. So 2-way access on Montauk for the commercial building, and 2-way access on Church just for the residents. What's involved if we were to say that that's our
I'd
inclination?
have the site plan redrawn, then come back to you with the new variances based on how that moves it. So what'll happen is, just briefly, so this being a 1-way, the travel lane on a 1-way is half of a 2-way, right? So now when I make this a 2-way, this goes this way, these push over here, everything gets wider to the property line because I can't.
Okay, but let me just ask this question.
Yeah.
Can you theoretically redesign this a little bit to have your 2-way, right, for the residents only, this for the commercial, but maintaining if it requires some more variances, okay, but you're still gonna provide 3.
Yeah. Well, I can, I'm just letting you know, it spreads out because I need I think
What
you
I
need
would say
18
is-
feet on a 2-way lane, so I'm happy to do that. I can
The planning,
redo the site plan.
Either way.
That's my preference.
Keep speaking.
Either way, at the end of the day, it's gonna come to planning, we're gonna do the secret review. Part of the secret review is gonna be a transportation analysis. I don't even know what the planning board's gonna ask them if they have to submit a traffic study or something. That's gonna be at the board's discretion.
I want to just start that process, so that.
So,
Go.
now that I'm seeing this a little more clearly, I'm more comfortable moving forward with some type of secret from the planning board, because ultimately, it's a matter of design change on one part of the property. If it requires more variances, and we can work that out with planning. I don't think it's gonna require doing so much at this point.
The planning board still has to complete its secret review. We can't make a decision.
We have to start the secret review.
We have to start it.
Let me give you an example,
Because-
and I can't speak for the planning board, but they could review this.
Why wouldn't the planning board be the lead agency?
No, we would.
We haven't coordinated.
We haven't coordinated
The
yet.
question before us is which plan do we want to coordinate with?
Okay.
I'll give you an example, Devin. The planning board take this plan and they could review it and say, we're gonna issue a conditional neg deck, right? And they could turn around and say, yeah, that's conditioned on revising the plan and making it a two-way and limiting the, access for the resident. That could come out of the process, those are the types of things that we could look at. But I don't think you necessarily need to revise plans again. We have a plan there, and if the solution is what, the CAC is recommending and the other, members of the community opposition, we could handle that based on that plan and moving forward.
Just stay with this plan and then address
I mean,
it.
So what you're saying is if you submit the plan with the, the two-way access,
He's saying submit it as is with one,
As is.
and then they can
And then
address the two-way
planning could take a look at it and based on input from the public and the residents and everything else may come up with.
They may ask for a little traffic impact study
Yeah.
or something to say, and then that'll help us guide our decision.
And then we wait for your report back, and then that guides our informed decision. I'm okay with that.
And it doesn't sound like there's resistance on the board as I'm reading the room, if you will,
I think with
for
the
more
neighbors,
variances,
I mean, if
right?
what I'm hearing from the opposition is a matter of increasing the number of variances and limiting that access, and we will certainly consider that. That's 100% legit. We
Yeah,
would do that.
yeah.
I'm fine either way.
Yeah,
Me too.
because I'm very sensitive to the fact that the residents there are very
So maybe I can ask you, if the board could put this over for 2 weeks, I have all these plans done, and I have EAF done, so just put it on for 2 weeks for coordination only, so we can start that process.
We don't even need to
Oh,
put
you
it
don't
on
need
for a
that?
coordination.
Okay.
We just, no, what we should do is get the copies of the plans together, do the long form EAF, submit it to the board, we coordinate it, and then we put it back on our agenda only for lead agency purposes.
Right.
Because we don't, at this point, you've heard from the public, you're meeting with the neighbors. It's pointless for them to have any further input to us, and so we coordinate SECRA.
Okay, so we will do the coordination at the next meeting.
We'll just do the coordination once we get the long form EAF.
Yeah, we can
All
do
right,
it for
okay.
We're just saying right now, this is, what, I can't even remember, is it unlisted or
How
type
many
one?
parking spaces is it?
It said what it was a million years ago, I can't
51?
remember. I think it's unlisted.
I think it's unlisted.
If
It's
it's
definitely
under
under.
50, it's unlisted.
Yeah, so we're gonna coordinate SECRA. We need at least 30 days to coordinate and do the lead agency, but we don't even have the EAF. Right, so when do you think you'll get the EAF and everything to,
I'll have it to Candace by Monday or Tuesday.
okay? I
Yep.
don't have my calendar. So then we have to coordinate with planning board, the landmarks board, because the landmarks board is issuing the certificate of appropriateness.
They've already reviewed it, issued a report, and I've resubmitted again, so
Okay,
they've.
but we have
they're
to
looped in
coordinate
on
with
it.
them for
Yep.
SECRA. Who else? Suffolk County
Health Department.
Health Department,
Mhm.
Planning Commission, is it on a
Yeah,
county?
Planning Commission.
Okay.
I don't even know about landmarks necessarily.
Well, no, you have to coordinate with everybody who has permitting authority.
And we have to get the certificate of appropriateness from them.
I'll agree with that, but their review landmarks, did landmarks do a secret?
Hmm?
Did landmarks do secret on this?
No.
You're saying coordinate, that means they would be subject to secret, so I'm just,
Yeah.
I've never coordinated with the
No,
landmarks.
we never have either, but they are,
The code
well,
says-
either
It
way.
will make
Put it
a
safe
difference.
for
You
secret.
could coordinate.
I have to
Either
get
way.
a certificate of appropriateness from them for a building
The
permit.
building
not
permit,
one
true.
for here.
So it's like a
That's
pre,
right.
all
Separate, so it's not through here, I could
That's right.
go through everybody else and then go to them last.
right, so let's pretend we get it on Monday, May 5th, 30 days. We meet June 5th and June what? Do we meet on the 19th? Oh, no, that's Juneteenth.
No, it's June 5th is the only June.
Yep.
And then July 3rd.
All right, well, let's try to put it on for lead agency on June 5th. And if we can't, then we'd have to put it off for lead agency. But let's put it on for lead agency only for June 5th. And that means we gotta get the stuff in and out.
And when do you think you're seeing the planning board in between all that?
So it won't be till.
Oh, after.
And then we'll put it,
It's after,
but we
once they're,
should, but we should pick another date as well. So June 5th for lead agency and then back to this board for testimony August, maybe? Would that be enough time for SECRA, Anthony?
Potentially.
All right, so let's put
well,
it
let's
on.
put it on, but
Not for August, and if it's not, I'll send a letter. and
All right,
please
so we'll put it on for lead agency, June 5th. Martha, are you on there still? Lead
I'm
agency
here.
for June 5th. We'll do testimony August, what are the August meetings?
7 and 21.
7th if we can.
All right, so we'll put on for testimony August 7th.
Okay.
That's, assuming we have all of the SECRA and everything.
okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we close that we keep open this public
Yeah.
hearing, and that we will vote on lead agency on June 5th, and continue testimony on August 7th.
Second.
Thanks so much.
Mr. Mastonio?
Aye.
Ms. Kane?
Aye.
Mr. Redhand?
Aye.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Number 7 on tonight's calendar, Luis A. Adrobo U. Giles. I hope I didn't kill that. 12 Ocean Avenue, Hampton Bays, New York. Section 900, 260-2-19.1.
Okay, have we sworn you in before?
We have been, we were at the first
The
hearing.
the two of you, yes. Would you like to get sworn in? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please state your name and address.
Shady Idrobo Carrera, and address for Ocean Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
SHEIDY.
SHEIDY? Thank you.
Okay, so where are we on this application?
Okay, we were here in March regarding an application for some rear yard relief for a proposed pool, cabana, and outdoor kitchen. And my client was asked to modify the survey. I just want to state first that in the interim of that meeting and this meeting, Lewis was able to obtain letters from the neighbors in support of the application that was set forth at that last meeting with the larger relief. And we have 8, 10, 11, 13, and 15, which are the most impacted neighbors regarding, because he's 12 Ocean Avenue, and then we have one from 4 Ocean Avenue, which is away from the subject parcel. So I can give this to
Candace. Is there just one set, Linda?
It looks like it's just one set.
Okay.
I need one for each. I'll take care of it. It's one form letter with different signatures, so it basically all reads the same.
Okay.
So I'll scan one to the board and then just tell you
Who else
all
signed
the
it?
other names are, and if the addresses are on here.
Okay, that sounds good. So Linda, have there been any changes? Because there was some concern,
Yes.
obviously. Okay.
This is the new plan.
Have you submitted that to Candace?
Yeah.
Do you have copies for us?
You have copies of all the board? No, they need copies of it. You have
I
copies
know
for the
we
board
have
members?
No, we're gonna adjourn this time.
Let them look at it for now and then bring those back to me. And just so they can have something to look at as you're talking.
Okay.
John,
he did,
maybe John take one, Bob take one, people kind of.
he reduced.
So tell us verbally what, you actually reduced and what you.
Okay, the pool is smaller, the cabana is smaller, and the outdoor kitchen, it was relocated, and that is also a smaller size. So he was able to get the rear lot relief down to a more acceptable
What is
percentage.
the rear lot relief now?
38%.
38%.
The rear yard coverage.
Right, yes, I'm sorry, wrong terminology.
Okay.
Is that 38% on the survey now?
Yes.
Okay, so was it like 50% or more? Wasn't it the last time? It was more than 50%.
Higher than that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
You're
don't.
not asking for any rear yard relief then?
No, right, so your rear yard relief is, so what are you asking for at this
We're
point?
not allowed 38.
Rear yard coverage?
Oh, it is 50.
Yeah,
That's
it's
right, I forgot
50.
about that. Okay.
Yeah. It's 50, so you're within that.
No variance required.
So what's required now in terms of a variance? Setbacks?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us what those, I haven't seen the plan, so when you got it. So what are the setbacks that you now need?
Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the
Here,
survey.
I'm gonna give this to you. You're gonna have to
Thank you.
submit this. We're
There
gonna
you
have,
go.
we're gonna have to have an opportunity to look at this, obviously. We're not gonna be able to close
Yeah,
this
well,
tonight, so.
One of the issues was that he had two front yards.
Mhm,
So we repositioned the pool to the east of the property, eliminating the need for a variance for Polar Street. Because originally the pool was encroaching on that front yard.
Okay,
And then for the east side of the property, he's asking for relief of 6.2 from the property line for the cabana.
okay.
And the relief for the pool is at 6.8.
That's for the rear
To
side?
the rear yard.
Rear yard, that's the rear yard, then you're considering the
That's-
pool part
yeah,
is the
that's-
rear. Okay, and I'm sorry, give me that number again. 6.8?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would, the setback would be
10?
10?
10.
Right.
The rear yard would be required 10, so he's at 6.8.
And what would the side yard
And
be?
he's at 7.2 for the other corner, because it's a little crooked. The side yard was 10, so we're asking for 6.2, and that's it.
Okay, so at this point, you're asking for two setbacks.
Correct.
The cabana for a 6.2 where 10 is required,
Yes,
and the pool, a 6.8 where 10 is required.
yes, correct. That's the smallest number.
You said the kitchen complies now?
Excuse me?
The outdoor kitchen complies now?
I can't hear
The
you.
proposed kitchen.
Kitchen complies?
Yes.
So that's got a 10-foot setback, or that's just totally moved?
No, the
Kitchen.
kitchen is now to the back of the property. It's not where it was originally proposed. So we
it have a
don't have
set-
to worry about.
It's
the
like,
Does it
rear
have a
yard.
setback
it's
on
like
there?
here,
Where it was originally proposed, we needed a setback from the rear yard, but it's relocated, so we have no concerns with the rear yard.
But that's what I'm saying, so it's not even in the rear yard? Where
No.
is it?
no, it's right up next to the house.
Okay. So it
Yeah,
had,
so it went from in the back along the line to close to the house.
And it's smaller, it's 2 by 10.
Okay. Okay, any questions? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to be heard on this application?
Hold on. No one on Zoom.
but I have another question. You said you increased the setback for the cabana, right? Did that change the pyramid encroachment for the cabana?
Before it was, the cabana was, I believe it was 14 by 17.
Mhm.
Right now it's
Yes,
12 by
please.
16, so I think it was held. The pyramid, I think it was.
So
Yeah, it
it's
was a
not,
very-
you're not asking for pyramid relief on the cabana?
No, because it's
Do you
small.
have plans that you?
I don't have architectural plans.
Well, we need them. You had them before, right? 'Cause
Yeah, yeah.
that you need
them updated.
You need this person to show that it complies, like redo it again.
Right. Just to confirm that in fact, because we want to make sure that it's accurate so that when you get,
I understand.
okay. So it seems to me that there are a couple of things. One, we need to get copies of the new surveys. We need to get the plans updated. Okay, to verify that you've shrunken the cabana, that there's no pyramid relief required, or whatever the pyramid relief is.
Mhm.
So I assume that we could do this on written submissions, Katie.
Sure. If the board's comfortable with it, it's, yeah.
I'm comfortable
They've
with
reduced
it,
the relief. They've
but my question is,
eliminated
how
stuff.
long is it gonna take you to?
Well, the
obtain-
surveys, I can have them to you tomorrow.
Okay,
As far as the architect.
The architect for the pyramid.
for the plans, yeah.
For the plan,
the
she's
pyramid, yeah.
she's for the pyramid or for
Just
the
for
whole
the,
plan?
just for the cabana, because that's what the,
You need a pyramid,
Yeah.
right? She's
The
the.
pyramid, yeah.
Yeah, pyramid. Yeah, I can see if I can get.
Could you get it by May 16th, you think?
Well, wait,
Before the what?
That's the written sub date.
Next.
I don't remember if we talked about this in the last meeting, but with a pool and a cabana in the backyard, I'm assuming your septic system's in the front yard?
Yeah, it's in the survey. We upgraded it.
Right.
Okay. So the question is really the timing, because if we close the public hearing tonight, which we're happy to do, you know, and hold it open for written submissions with a decision, it would be written submissions by May 16th with a decision on June 5th. Is that a schedule you could meet?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Before that, it is.
Or you
Well, but that's what's the normal schedule.
Yeah, and then it's fine
So,
for me.
Bob, do you want to make that as a, I'll let you take the leadership.
I
on
will
this
take
one.
that, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So we will close the meeting, public meeting, hold it open for written submissions till May 16th with a decision on June 5th. You just have to get everything to Candace
So
before
we
that
need the
date.
survey and we need the plans.
Plans
Updated
to
for-
show conformity.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Mastonia.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll get that to you, Anna, before the 15th.
Get your Candace.
Yeah, because we need to look at it before the meeting.
I understand.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
Number 8, Janice Lee Golson. Which is 314 North McGee Street, 900-129-2-7.1.
Okay, Mr. Benacasa, you want to introduce yourself?
Casa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, to the applicant. If you recall, last time we were here, we asked for an adjournment as we were trying to work things out with the neighbor. Prior to that meeting, and there's a neighbor here today, and she'll certainly relay her understanding of what happened. We met in my office and discussed potential options that would be agreeable to all to allow them to withdraw their opposition. My understanding from that meeting, and again, you'll have a moment, you'll have an opportunity to dispute me, because I know there is a dispute on that, that the applicant would agree to increase the existing proposed buffer from 30 feet to 20 feet between that lot, the subject parcels or the subject to be parcels and the lots to the south. Impose a 10-foot setback for structures from that 30-foot buffer. Eliminate pickleball courts, or prohibit pickleball courts on those two southern lots, and install a buffer of presumably green giants, 8 to 10-foot green giants between them. I took that to my client, and he was agreeable. Before the last hearing, they then said they needed to consider it more, and I'm not exactly sure where they stand now, but I can tell you that the revised plan does call for that regardless of their willingness to, or regardless of their willingness to withdraw their opposition. The revised plan would make this easement subject to that 30-foot buffer and a 10-foot setback from that, which then the planning board would have to adhere to, because that would be the zoning on the lot. A condition that there be a row of evergreens or suitable screening planted not along the southern edge of the buffer, but along the northern edge, so on my client's property, not on the borderline with the neighbor's property. And again, that 10-foot setback from that buffer, so that no structure would be within 40 feet of the boundary line between the parcels. And then there would be, we would agree to a covenant, either a condition of the variance or a covenant, presumably a covenant would be preferable, prohibiting any pickleball from being placed on the two southern lots that are directly bordering the lots to the south. Again, I cannot speak for the neighbors. It was originally my understanding that this would lead to an agreement. Their impression was that it was just sort of something to put on the table and consider. That's our position. I'll remind you that the relief here, again, is unique in that, if you remember, we're asking for lot width relief for the yield map, which would then allow the planning board to do its cluster map, which is preferred. And Anthony, certainly has more insight on that than I ever could, if you have anything to add.
So what you're asking for from us is lot size relief, isn't that correct?
Lot width relief on one lot on the yield map, which will never exist, so that the planning board can allow us to build their preferred cluster.
And the lot width relief is on this
Lot
first one.
But it's different, it's not on any of these lots. It's on the yield.
It's on the yield map.
Right.
I know.
Okay.
This is a very convoluted form of
Listen, when the
relief.
planning board did the report, we outlined what the options were. The planning board didn't take a hardline position and say, no, zoning board, don't grant relief, or, because when looking at it and being somewhat reasonable, the fourth lot in question has a lot area. If this was an undersized lot, the planning board would have said to you, this is a 3-lot yield, period, end of story. That would have been the end of the discussion. But it was a matter of lot width, given the shape of the property and everything, and that's a lot of land to swallow up, not getting anything for it. And so for the planning board's perspective, 3 or 4 lots, at the end of the day, isn't a huge difference for them. What they want is a cluster plan. Similar, I don't know what that red area, if that's an easement, if
No, this
we may
red
include it
area
as open
would be-
space, I don't know, but.
The cluster plan that came out of the pre-submission conference called for a 20-foot buffer from the lots. So we would agree for the zoning board to make that as a condition of the relief, a 30-foot buffer with a 10-foot setback from that. I would just remind the board that we could walk away today and build 3 lots here with 3 pickleball courts or any other sport court we want, without that buffer, without the trees, without the setback, other than what zoning requires.
You wouldn't build 4,
And
but you
without
could
the
build
open
3.
space.
You
Without
could
the
build
open
Without the open space too.
That's why they like cluster.
Okay.
And we could get a affordable lot too to make the 4 on the 4.
We had this discussion.
We had this discussion.
Actually agree with planning's recommendations and.
Yeah. So it's a certainly not, there's a lot of land use calculations and analysis at play here.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you would be granting a lot, a variance for lot width on one of the yield lots. That's the relief. And as a condition, and I suppose they could condition their granting on the yield lot that we pursue the cluster plan with the planning board. I don't know if you want to get that far ahead of it, because the planning board's already going to require that.
I'd have to see all these conditions in writing. I mean, all of that is very unusual.
What?
All of those conditions that you're talking about
Buffers.
tied to a ZBA decision. And I'm not saying it's unreasonable,
Yeah,
it's just,
right.
It's a concession we're willing to make.
yeah,
So-
so that's what I'm saying, I don't.
So if you want to make that a condition, and we were discussing how it would work, you could make it a condition of the variance, and the planning board could actually impose the covenants as part of their approval. Or, we'll leave that to you, but that is what we are willing to
Do we
do.
have any of that in writing? Do we have a submission on that, or
On what?
all those conditions and the buffer and all that stuff?
I have a revised that you're looking at.
Okay, but all of those conditions are on here, that's what I'm
No,
saying.
the pickleball is not on there.
The pickleball, well, we removed the courts that were displayed on there,
Okay,
but the actual condition is not,
No, it's not there. And the trees are not there.
and the buffer's not there.
Yeah, so I think that it probably does make sense for you
well,
to
let's
do
let's
it.
hear what the neighbors.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, for you to make a submission in writing to us as to what.
We will absolutely do that.
Yeah, okay. I just.
We don't even know, if this
All
is
right.
agreeable to the board.
Yes, no,
so
I
we're just sort of
understand, and we
testing.
want to hear from the audience, so. Would you like to come up now?
Now's your chance.
I'm sorry about earlier.
It's okay.
My name
Are
is
you an attorney?
Joanne. No.
Let me swear you in then. Do you swear to tell?
I said I'm not.
I know, I need to swear you in
Oh, okay.
then. If you were, for
Oh.
some reason, I wouldn't have to swear you in.
These attorneys never lie.
They never lie. Yes. So, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Joanne Morse, and I live at 290 North McGee Street, Southampton.
Okay. Okay, Joanne. Tell us your comments.
I had a different way I was going to start before, but in lieu of what Carl has just said, it really comes down to what you guys decide, what you all decide. In other words, if you determine that you don't want to have 4 houses there, then that's your decision. If you want 3, it really plays into what I'm going to say, which is, as a matter of principle, my thoughts have not changed, that there should only be 3 lots on the property.
And that comes from living there for 30 years and the 3 houses that sit next to me, along with then the 3 houses that would go on the other side. I've made, this is the most important. I did bring these last time, but then the meeting was
They need to be submitted to our
We'll give one,
secretary.
give one to Candace and I can pass the other ones down.
Yes, possible. Actually, we're not. Oh, unless Carl. Yes, Carl needs one.
Joey, do you have an extra one? I'll take that. Carl has one in front of him. I need one for the woman that's not here.
Anyway, just to carry that up. I have made 3 submissions to the board and spoken at the public hearing in opposition to the 4-lot variance sought for the property, subject property. I am still of the belief that the developer has not shown any compelling reasons why the board should grant the relief. The variance requested does not meet any of the statutory requirements outlined in the section 267B and could set a bad precedence that will be used by other developers of undeveloped properties in the neighborhood and elsewhere in the town. In addition, 3 lots, not 4, would give the planning board more options for the layout and preserve more open space. As a matter of principle, my thoughts have not changed, and therefore I still would prefer 3 lots versus 4 lots. However, if the ZBA grants the variance and creates a 4th lot, I urge that at minimum, the following conditions offered by the developer be imposed, and those are the ones we just talked about. If you refer to, or if you look at the PowerPoint that I did present, it really talks about in the first couple of pages, it just really does the requirements of what a variance, why a variance would be granted. And as I said, I state the case that it doesn't meet those requirements. Then the planning board pre-submission conference report is really filled with a tremendous amount of errors. And I'm not sure how it got adopted, but it can't be relied on because there's many errors in the application. If you'll see that in my handout. On page 9 of my handout, I have a picture that shows the lot widths on North McGee Street. And it points out that every house from the time of the R40 zoning is at least 150 and quite a bit more feet. The developer is asking for 116 feet, which is the reason for the variance. He's not asking for a 4-foot reduction. He's asking for a 34-foot reduction, which is 23%, which is a 23% reduction in the lot width. And I think that's a significant amount. Then on the second to last page, I have a 3-lot subdivision, which would allow for conforming lots and ample open space and is consistent with the lot widths of the surrounding area. But again, I understand that there are a lot of factors at play here. And again, if you decide that you're going to go with the 4 lots, I just ask that you do grant this 30-foot non-disturbance buffer against the properties on the south side.
You agreed to that.
Yes.
We conceded. Whether or not they drop their opposition, we are offering.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Joanne, may I ask you, So the 30-foot sounds like it's been addressed, and it looks like the pickleball court that you found objectionable
Oh, definitely.
is gone.
Okay.
So does that change your view of
Well,
this?
I know that my two neighbors, I would say, they're very opposed to the pickleball court, and they.
And those are gone.
Those are gone.
Yeah, okay.
One thing
And
that sticks
the-
with me, just for a minute,
Yeah.
if it was gonna be, the fourth lot was gonna be used for affordable housing, there would not be a variance required.
Right.
So,
So they could divide
They
it
could-
into 3 lots plus 1 lot for
Correct.
affordable housing,
and then,
without requiring variance.
and then would not have to make any of the concessions regarding the pickleball and the buffering zone.
Right.
So he's willing to do that in order to get the variance for the reduction on that one lot, which he could use for affordable anyway without a variance.
I understand.
So I think your concerns are being addressed.
So, well, I didn't I didn't really realize that you as a board, I mean, I thought that your opinion is going to be the main one, whether you say we want 3 or.
No.
And-
He's entitled to 4
Mhm.
without a variance, because the fourth one could be affordable housing.
The fourth one is.
If the fourth
If
one is
the
affordable
fourth-
housing.
Otherwise, he's entitled to 3.
Right, exactly.
No restrictions in terms of pickleball or
And no restrictions of buffering, any of that. So he's willing to make the concessions on the buffering and the pickleball in order to get that relief on the fourth one, which is not going to be affordable at that point.
Right. But you're saying that if it doesn't, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. But what you're saying to me is that if I were to push for this 3-lot thing or ask you to grant that doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to happen anyway.
Correct.
Because they could go a different direction.
Right. Right. Yeah. He could use his rights to pursue different options.
Okay.
I'm going to be more direct and just say, I'm hearing him offering just about everything you're asking, and the fourth lot is obtainable without him being here. So
All right.
sometimes
Yeah.
somebody gives you most of what you've been asking for.
Okay.
It's okay to say, okay.
All right. Well, I think that my two neighbors would agree exactly with what you're saying.
Well, I
so-
think he's been,
Yeah, he's being very fair.
Very accommodating.
I understand that.
And I think that,
certainly.
we welcome the changes that you propose. I think they're really in keeping with our concerns, our initial concerns, and I'm getting the sense that the board is pretty much behind
I do.
the changes.
I think with the accommodations he's made is actually going to enhance the neighborhood in a plan that you're actually going to like more than putting affordable housing without the reduction of pickleball and the buffer.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, you're going to be happy in the end.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience, anybody else in the audience who wishes to be heard? Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be heard?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, so,
I'll take this one too, that's fine.
Well, I'm going to take this one because I'm just going to say that the only thing that we're approving is the lot width on the yield map.
Right.
So that's
With the conditions.
with the conditions, and I would like those conditions in writing, the proposals to you.
I'll submit a signed letter that you can pursue it.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, so we're going to close the public hearing. We're going to look for those written submissions.
I'm sorry, Carl, what was that you said? Was it small?
Sorry, Candace?
What were you submitting? It was a.
I
It was
gonna
a
submit
list of the
signed letter
buffer.
Acknowledging each of the conditions, which
Okay.
is increasing the buffer from 20 to 30 feet.
All I need to know what's the conditions, that's all I need to write down.
Okay.
No pickleball and.
No pickleball on the
Whatever you
southern
put in your letter
two.
is gonna be for the board, I just need to write down my note, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, and then that would be as a condition of our granting the variance
Yes.
on the yield map.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing, leave it open for written comments until May 16th with a decision on 6-5.
Second.
Mr. Mastoni.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Ribbit.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Aye. Chair votes aye. Okay, thank you, Carl.
Number 9 on tonight's agenda, Ronan E. Seltenreich, 5 Central Avenue, East Quogue, New York, 900-315-3-7.
Okay.
these all revised?
Yes, ma'am.
Has Candace gotten any copies of
Yes,
these?
all of them.
Well done.
I have it already.
Well done. Thank you very much.
They did their business before the meeting.
There's 3 different submissions here?
And I have sworn you in before, so I don't need
Like
to.
surveys?
Two and then one large.
The one large has John's name on it. John.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So that's one of John.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna take one of these.
You can take this. Oh, no, this is not. I thought it was not. Okay. Okay, so when last we were here, we were very concerned about the pyramid relief, as you recall. And we asked you to give some consideration to modifying the plans. So where are we?
So we didn't modify the plans, we threw them out and started over.
Even better.
We took what you said pretty seriously.
What are our numbers now?
So
Well, let's hear the plans, yeah.
your plan is, you guys are looking at it now, the total relief that we're asking for now is, I don't have my copies in front of me anymore, but I believe it's 4217.
Instead of 7,000 that we were asking before.
What's the total now?
4217
I don't want to give you the wrong
versus
number.
over 7,000 last.
4217 is the total number. We also pushed the house a bit towards the north side of the lot, which that is a two-story house on that side as well. The south neighbor is the single-story home. So we're trying to, again, just give as much leeway to as we could. I've spoken with him numerous times. He is amenable to the plan. He's just not the owner of the home. It's his mom's home. She's elderly. She lives in Florida. So he's not comfortable signing on her behalf, but he is amenable to the plan. We're also willing to put some type of buffering like green giants or something along the property lines to make it seem more appeasing to the neighbors. Again, my neighbor to the north, the Comiskey's they've written a letter in support as well. I believe that was the original plan set. We cut the house width from, I believe it was 34 feet wide was the original plan set. This is now a 24-foot wide home. Your comments for the last plan set were use more of the property. So that is our attempt. By using much less of the width, we're going deeper into the property. And that's kind of where we've gotten to. We've cut that.
Is it still a prefab?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were able to go back to the company and say,
Yeah.
give us a different model.
Essentially, yes, ma'am.
Unfortunately, the builder for the prefab company, Barry Altman, I guess you guys know him, he was able to go back and have it redrawn to at least their specifications. And they changed the roof line from crossways, which was really the biggest problem, to lengthwise now. Now
Oh.
it goes east-west instead of north-south, which was the big problem here.
All right, so it went from north-south to east-west.
The roof line is.
Yeah, the roof line's changed.
Do the length of the
The whole
property,
house
not
has
the
been
width.
changed. And it would, the width, I believe, was 32 or 34 feet wide, which meant both side setbacks right on the line to a 24-foot wide house.
Looks like the neighbor's
So what are
roof
the
line goes the
setbacks?
same
Do
way,
you have
right?
setback
Sorry,
relief?
The neighbor, looks like his roof line goes the
I
same way.
believe it does.
Yeah,
Off the
same way.
top of my head, I
Yes.
believe it does.
It actually matches now,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
Mr. Chando said last time, that it didn't meet the quorum of the house. Now it does, meets the other houses, the roof line.
And are you asking for setback relief too? I can't
Not at all.
remember.
I
No.
don't
set-
believe so.
No setback, just pyramid.
Just the pyramid.
So it took off like 30.
Yeah, we almost cut it in half, close to half.
What are the ceiling heights?
Even ceiling heights.
Both first floor and second floor?
First and second floor. Yes.
I don't want
Right, so, and this is a prefab, so
This is
it's,
the yes.
okay.
It'll be new septic, all that'll be.
It's a brand new septic system.
Is that first floor reading a 9-foot ceiling or is it to the floor joists?
The,
It is reading 9 foot. It's 9 foot.
It's not an 8.
It's 9 foot first floor. The second floor is 8. Yes, sir.
Okay. And the height is what?
29, 9, and 10.
Okay.
I am okay with the revisions.
I appreciate very much.
Appreciate what you're looking at.
Took to heart what we suggested, and
He doesn't listen to his father, so maybe you know.
Well, I'm so glad we played that role for you.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. This is a very small lot.
Yep.
And it would be very difficult to accommodate a growing family and just making use of the lot without getting pyramid relief. I appreciate the fact very much that you've reduced it substantially. And I think you're trying to keep in line with the neighbor, the same look as the neighbor, the same roof line as the neighbor. I'm very pleased. So that's where I'm coming out on this.
I agree.
I think it's fine. I think you did a great job.
Yeah, I feel the
Yeah,
same
for
way.
the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I don't know who's counting this one. I don't. Yeah, I'm fine. I looked at it once.
Nice show.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on 5 Central Avenue in East Quogue? Is there anybody on Zoom who wishes to be heard?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, John, this is yours.
Okay, so
You're
we're gonna close with written submissions for 6-5
With decisions
and a decision 6-5 for
written until 5:16.
5/16. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Second.
Mr. Redpen.
Aye.
Mr. Mastonio.
Aye.
Ms. Kane. Aye. Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
Good
And
job.
congratulations
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good. Sleep through the night.
Okay, number 10 on the agenda tonight, Hildreth Homestead, 120 Hildreth Avenue, Bridgehampton, New York, 988, 17.28. How are you?
Lisa, I
We are back.
swore you in on this.
Sworn me in last time.
Okay, good. So tell us where we are on this.
So,
This one.
last time we were here, I think that the board was looking favorably upon our application, but I can go through it again if you'd like. I actually asked you at the last meeting to adjourn it so that we could make sure that the HOA was approving of our proposal. They asked us to add some grills into the lights, into the windows, because they wanted a little more traditional look. So they wanted some more divided lights on the windows, and that was their only comment. So as far as I know, the neighbors and the HOA are in favor of our application, and hopefully you are too. If you'd like me to go through it again, I will.
No, I don't think you need to. I think we were favorable to this application, but you had asked for
I did.
an adjournment just to make sure you covered all your bases, which you did. So you got the homeowner. Do we have a copy of anything that
They didn't put anything in writing. There were a few emails that went back and forth, but there was nothing in writing with that. I mean, I could try to get them to do something.
Or at least maybe you could submit a summary of what their requests were and, you know,
I can do
Katie,
that.
what do you think? Do we need anything?
No, because she's not changing the plans, it's not changing the variances, the HOA is kind of like another neighbor.
Yeah, yeah.
And even if, honestly, even if the HOA said they didn't agree, you're not bound by that.
Okay, so, good to know. You don't have to submit anything. Okay, whose
Kevin?
is
This
this?
is
Kevin?
me.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
So I'm-
Wait, let me ask if do you have
Sure.
any comments?
I have none.
And do we have any comments from the audience on 120 Hildreth Avenue? Is there anyone on Zoom?
No one.
Okay, sorry, Kevin.
That's quite all right. So I'm going to make a motion that we close the hearing on Hildreth Homestead LLC to accept written comments, submissions from anybody up until May 16th with a decision on 6-5.
Mr. McDonald?
Aye.
Ms. Kane? Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Mr. Reppin?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Chair votes aye. Okay, thank
All
you,
right,
Lisa.
thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Number 11 on tonight's agenda, Brian Farrell, 11 Robbins Lane, North Sea, New York, 900-62-1-10.
Carl Benacasa, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York. The applicant tonight.
You're bringing the star.
Well, he was here anyway. But yes.
He's going to sit here with you. Okay.
Brian, you can introduce yourself.
Fine.
So Brian DeSessa, 2200 Montauk Highway, trustee for the applicant.
So, when we were last here, we adjourned to provide updated plans, essentially showing that there is a consistent reduction in the overall height with the reduction in these two ceiling heights to 8 feet. Those plans were submitted and you have them. I'll just go through the changes that have been made to this application since it was first submitted. The principal yard setback was originally 30. It's now approximately 12. So the setback was reduced by 50%. The rear yard setback was 35. It's now 25.2. The corner clearance was reduced as a result of pushing that garage back up to attaching it. It was originally a detached garage. And what you see in the plans, because of that correction we made, at our last hearing, we actually overstated the relief, the pyramid relief. The original pyramid relief was 2,657 and 0.59 cubic feet, and we've reduced it through all the changes to 1,457 cubic feet. That's a 45% reduction, which is substantial. I'll just remind the board that despite this 40,000 approximate square foot size of this lot, the results of the Conservation Board approval has squeezed us into roughly a 4,000 square foot building area. The house is modest in size. It's become more modest. The second floor of the home, which is essentially the primary entertaining area, is about 500 square feet for cooking, kitchen, food prep, dining, and living. We were originally supplementing that with the roof deck. That has been removed, primarily because it was public enemy number one with the numerous neighbors we've had. So, this is where we are today. I think that the applicant has made a series of substantial concessions, both in light of concerns from this board and input from the neighborhood. And if I know the neighborhood, I'm sure they would like to weigh in.
Okay, so the last time you were here, it was raised that you needed to correct the building height. And you reduced, yes, and you reduced your pyramid relief further by
As a
that.
result of doing that, it reduced it further.
Right, and then one of the conditions we had talked about is removing the vegetation at the corner so that there was good corner viewing. Remember we?
Well, that'll all be removed.
Yes,
as part of
okay,
this,
so yeah, okay.
I think it's just important to note on that it's a radius circle, so it's not a 90 degree, so the corner clearance is to prevent the flow of traffic. And that's a private road, so typically a private road to a public road, the corner clearance doesn't apply. The application is usually on that.
Okay.
For here, it's being applicable, so just as a note of reference to that, because it's for public ingress and egress, that's a private road, so the corner clearance is a public safety matter. Happy to clear the vegetation, we don't have an issue with that, but just as a note of context.
There was a lot of concern about the garage, having a garage at all, because they were very concerned about the fact that the viewing around that corner is very difficult, and it's a very tight, small, thin, street, so. Okay, anybody from the board who wishes to be heard on this right now?
Just one or two questions. Did you have one?
No, I.
Oh. All right. So the garage was the subject of intense discussion, as you know, at the last few meetings. And if there was no garage, presumably, because we've all sat here long enough, even me, about a year, there would be a request for a shed or some other accessory structure somewhere on the property, right? So it's a question of what else do you do if you don't do that? Just for my edification, I'm assuming there's a conservation easement or a non-disturbance buffer. Roughly, how would you describe that?
75 feet.
It's on the survey.
Right here.
I see the wetland delineation boundary.
And then there's a buffer and a setback.
Okay.
So there are two, actually. If that, you're looking at the site plan.
Yeah.
It's on the survey.
Okay, hold on. You have a hand
here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Well, maybe
I asked
they
for
were
before.
originally submitted, so.
Okay.
It's significant.
Yeah,
It's very
well, the
significant.
reason I'm getting at that is when you have those restrictions in place, what is left, right? And I'm just trying to be clear that I understand that it's either here or where else could it go?
So this is the revised survey. I think
Yeah.
it was submitted, but just in case. And it goes through If you recall that the numbers on the site plan and the survey were slightly different, they are now completely consistent.
Synced. Okay.
They are synced, so. The cover.
0.4 of a foot of
Yeah,
5.5 inches was the discrepancy.
So the cover sheet there outlines the relief.
Thank you.
Consistent relief throughout.
I don't, there's only a couple that have the cover sheet, so.
Oh, okay, yes, thank you.
Give me one.
Oh,
I was
maybe
gonna
I
ask
don't
for
have
one.
Updated here, Susan, you take it.
This is correct that. These are.
This substantially clarifies the issue I was just raising. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great.
It also, there was an incorrect elevations at the base of the garage.
Oh.
So what happened was, although the site plan was changed, the surveyor kept the elevations at when we pushed the garage back.
Ah,
They changed, so they had to change.
Right, right, right.
okay, so now it's all accurate.
Now what you have there is
Up-to-date,
fully
accurate.
accurate and up to date.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to be heard on 11 Robbins Lane? Please come up.
Hello again, Mary Ann O'Connor. I've been here a couple of times.
Yes, I've sworn you in.
Yes. There's a number of people from the community that are normally here that weren't be able to be here this evening, so they asked me to just come and reiterate the objection to the garage. They really feel that this is a safety issue. Although this is a private road, that makes it even more dangerous because it's a much more narrow road. Everybody has seen this is a very narrow road. And when you look at the size of the garage and the height of the garage, and then you park cars in front of the garage, it's very difficult to see around. It's just going to be. And we just feel that that is still a danger. And we would like the garage removed, maybe even a carport rather than the garage would give you some open sight lines versus the size of the garage and everything blocking. So we still feel that this is still a safety issue. They want to reiterate that. And as you said, a shed, yes, you have to have stuff to put, places to put your stuff. We understand that. But a shed would be much smaller than this garage, and it wouldn't be located in this position to block the road. And we still think it's a severe safety hazard. So.
Who planning, look at that or no?
That's worth it.
Okay, okay, thank you so much. Is there anyone on Zoom who wishes to be? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Yeah, I know. I've sworn you in. Just state your name, please.
Maureen Dean, and I live at 7 Robbins Lane. And I'm opposed to the garage also. I've lived on Robbins Lane for 60 years. I've seen a lot, and I know the corner is something to be reckoned with. And I just feel that the garage is, with requiring 3 parking spaces for vehicles, if there was no garage, you would have more space to kind of maneuver the cars around. And even last week, when it was brought up that number 12 has a garage and that number 2 has a garage. Both of them have more property than 11 Robbins Lane. And even with number 2 being under construction, they have a driveway, a separate parking area on their property, and still there are cars all over up Borders Edge Road. So just the idea of something under construction, very limited because you're going to have the house, the garage, there's no place to put the cars, the work vehicles, or anything. So that's my main concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Is there anybody on Zoom? Oh, I'm sorry, one more.
One more.
I was wondering why you were still here.
Actually, a light crew tonight.
Yeah, it is like.
Shannon Bradley.
Hi,
I've been sworn in before.
Yes.
It's just reiterating the same from the neighbors about the garage. I think that we all felt pretty confident the last meeting, prior to the last meeting, that the board was considering, the safety for the corner clearance. I do know that, we left here pretty feeling pretty good that you guys saw our point of view and you were in favor of having the garage removed. Most of us did miss the last meeting, so I don't know what changed since then in the meeting that I missed. But I'd be, interested in knowing where there's been a change in the thought of the safety for the corner clearance. I guess, just like everyone has said, it's a very narrow road. I do understand the fact that it's a private road, but I don't think that changes the fact for the safety. It actually makes it more pertinent because when you're going around the corner, the road size is smaller than your average road. So basically, we don't really have much more to say. We appreciate the fact that, you guys have worked with us and that, Carl, you've worked on the project and your client has made all the necessary concessions. We appreciate that very much. But it just seems a shame that the one concession that's not being made is the issue of the safety of the neighbors. I know Carter Simpson was one of the people on Zoom last time, and he said it really hit home with me. He's like, I'm the neighbor that's beyond this house, and if emergency has to come get me, or if there's an issue, or if there's a fire, about vehicles and parking and coming around the corner. So for me, that really hit home, and that's all we have to offer for tonight, that I have to offer.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do you want to respond?
So I'm happy to respond if that's everybody.
Oh, is there anybody else on Zoom who wishes to be heard?
No one on Zoom.
I thought so. Yeah, go ahead.
I do just another handout to show 12 houses.
Well, follows hand in hand. I mean, the garage is 25 feet into the property. And the property is going to be cleared. So the corner clearance that is a concern is wooded now. So arguably, it's in worse condition than when it's going to be cleared. The structure is going to be set back 25 feet from Robbins. It's less than, or approximately on the elevation, I think it's approximately 10 feet in height or 12 feet in height for the garage. And at 25 feet and 12 feet, you're not even a 1/1, you're a half over 1 in terms of.
Is it a two-car garage?
It's a one-car garage. And to bring this back to the beginning, when this started over a year ago, the concession that was asked from the neighbors was to move the garage and connect it to the house, because it started off as a detached garage. So there was a concession made on behalf of the applicant. We connected the garage to the house. Then we reduced the height, we've reduced the pyramid, we've dropped the ceiling. So the concessions have been numerous here, and there's no more concessions to be done.
So just quick question about the comment Shannon made about the gentleman from 2 weeks ago saying emergency ingress and egress could be problematic. Is there anything?
It has nothing to do with us, they're saying
to that?
Okay, you're not changing the road. You gotta come up to the microphone, ma'am.
You're making it sound like you made a concession by attaching the garage.
You gotta talk to us.
We specifically, we've always objected to there being a garage. We've always said we wanted no garage there. Them moving the garage from detached to attached is their concession. But we have always said the garage doesn't fit there because of the clearance that's required.
It's 25 feet back, and it's all wooded right now, so there's no clearance right now, and there's no vision coming in and out of the driveway.
But when you put that garage in and then you put the cars in front of it, it's going to be a problem. Even though you're going to clear it, you're blocking the view. This is a very narrow road. And again, it's basically one car can go in, one car can go out. And so I believe that these rules are there for safety purposes. And you're making it sound like you've made these great concessions. You haven't. We've always said we didn't want the garage there, and we felt that the garage encroaching into the clearance area was an issue.
But to be fair, there have been a number of concessions without.
There have been minor concessions. They keep making it sound like they're huge.
And I think we're speculating on there being a safety issue. I think it's pure speculation, honestly, because you don't want a garage.
And that's fine for you to believe that, and the first time somebody gets hurt, this is all public record.
Okay, that's why we're here.
All right, thank you for your comments. So where are we? I think we're ready to close the hearing and have a decision. Is that all right with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so This is mine, so we're going to close the public hearing, leave it open for written submissions until May 16th with a decision on June 5th.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Mr. Mastroni.
Aye.
Ms. Kane. Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Both sides. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
ladies.
Thank you, ladies. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you all.
40-27 next. What's the score? 40-27 next, second quarter. Yeah, Tuesday it was. Crazy.
Okay,
Okay,
we are
decisions.
now going to be working on decisions, so. Let's do them in order. All right, so Julie, you go first, and I go, then John goes.
Okay.
All right, guys, we got to do decisions in the audience. Please be quiet.
All right, please.
Right on seven.
Carl, outside, please, we're doing decisions.
Yeah, we're not done.
We still have work to do. Thank you, thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
I want to get the end of the game.
Minor decision for the application of Felix Babashevich and Brianna Trost, Suffolk County Town Map 900-4-1-87.20. This is a minor application for property located at 27 Treadwell Lane, Noyak. Applicant seeks a variance for a proposed sports court. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 330-6, General Regulations, that references 330-11, Residence District Tables of Dimensional Regulations, for an accessory distance from front lot line setback of 65.99 feet, where 70 feet is required for a proposed sports court, as shown on the survey prepared by Joseph Secafico, LS, last dated March 14, 2025. Grant of the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, I have a decision in the matter of 2200 Montauk LLC, Dime Community Bank, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-85-1-27.1. This application is for property located at 2200 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton. Applicant seeks a variance to allow a wall sign to face a parking lot where wall signs must face public street frontage. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-205A1, General Provisions, and Town Code Section 330, Attachment 9, Schedule of Permitted Signs, to allow a wall sign facing a parking lot where only wall signs facing public street frontage are permitted, as shown on the sign layout prepared by Going Sign and Servicing Co., Inc., dated May 5, 2022, and the survey prepared by Pinnacle LS LLP, last dated August 1st, 2023. Grant of the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. John, you want to go?
Decision for 151 and 152 CSP LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-155-1-7. This applicant is for a property located at 151 Cold Spring Road, Tuckahoe. Applicant seeks a variance to construct a new two-story dwelling on a non-conforming lot burdened by wetlands. After revising the plans to reduce the pyramid encroachment, this board finds that the applicant passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, the board grants relief from the Town Code 330-84D Pyramid Law for a sky plane encroachment in the amount of 3,920 cubic feet, 1,959 cubic feet on the west side and 1,961 cubic feet on the west, for a proposed one-family, two-story dwelling on a non-conforming lot as shown on the survey prepared by Robert Smith of Squires Holding and Weissenbacher and Smith, last revised October 14th, 2024, and the floor plans and elevations prepared by architect Debbie S. Kropp of DSK Architects PLLC, last revised March 21, 2025. Grant of the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for a final approval of the subject premises, including ensuring that no stormwater runoff be discharged into the adjoining body of water.
Second. Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. Mastonia.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
No.
Ms. Burgess.
Oh.
Chair votes aye. Okay, we're up to
Me?
Bob. Yeah.
Okay. This is the application of Jennifer Weinrob et al., Suffolk County Tax Map 900-32-1-11. This application is for property located at 107 Edmere Drive, North Sea. Applicant seeks a variance for proposed first and second story addition to an existing dwelling on a narrow, non-conforming lot. After the applicant modified the plans to reduce the pyramid encroachment, this board finds that the application passes the standards that set forth in New York State town law and town code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following town code, section 330-84D, pyramid law for a sky plane encroachment in the amount of 5,983.2 cubic feet for a proposed first and second story addition to a one-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot as shown in the survey prepared by Gary Benz, licensed land surveyor, last revised April 8, 2025, and for the floor plans prepared by John R. Van Velsa, registered architect, last issued April 3, 2025, and the elevations dated March 26, 2025. Granted, the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including that no stormwater runoff be discharged into the adjoining body of water.
Second.
Mr. Mastonia.
Aye.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
No.
Ms. Burgess.
Oh.
Chair votes aye.
This is Michael and Dorothy Stone, Suffolk
Wait a
County.
second, we're not up to you. Julie, you're next. John
Nelson?
Yeah.
Okay. John Nelson, Suffolk County Town Map 900-134-4-38. This application is for property located at 75 Sam's Creek, Bridgehampton. Applicant requests a single and separate determination for non-conforming lot. After reviewing the testimony and evidence presented, this board finds that the subject premises, that is Suffolk County Town Map 900-134-4-38, is held in single and separate ownership from all adjacent parcels and thus is entitled to relief pursuant to Town Code Section 330-115D.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Kane. Aye. Ms. Mastonia.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. Okay, John, is this Victor? Is that yours?
Yep. Okay, decision in Victor Velasquez and Cami, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-166-1-27. This applicant is for property located at 334 Brookhaven Avenue, Flanders. Applicant seeks variance to legalize an accessory apartment constructed with the basement of an existing dwelling. While this board does not condone construction done without permits, it does find that the applicant passes the standards set forth by New York State town law and town code. Therefore, the board grants relief from the following provisions of the town code to legalize an accessory apartment on a non-conforming lot. Town Code 330-11-2F, special standards for a lot area of 22,500 square feet where 32,000 square feet is required, 80% of the required 40,000 square feet, 40,000 feet, and a principal front yard setback of 34.8 feet where 42 feet is required on the South Albany Street, 70% of the required 60 feet for the existing dwelling, and 2 Town Code 330-112G special standards to allow the size of the accessory apartment in comparison to the main dwelling to be 55.1%, where a maximum of 35% is permitted, as shown on the survey prepared by Ralph Heel of Meets and Bound Surveying, last revised March 24th, 2025, and the floor plans and elevations prepared by Eric J. Pilliter, R.A., last dated March 25th, 2025. Grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such conditions and permits as applicant applicant has already required or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second?
Mr. Redmond.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Hayes.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, I've got a long one here.
Aye.
Tyler Eddy, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-160-3-55. This application is for property located at 608 Flying Point Road, Watermill. Applicant seeks variances for proposed pergola, pool, spa, additions, and cantilevers to an existing dwelling on an undersized lot extremely burdened by wetlands. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code. 1, for the proposed pergola, Section 330-6 General Regulations that references Section 330-11 Resident Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory rear yard setback of 24.3 feet where 60 feet is required, and Section 330-11 for an accessory front yard setback of 59 feet where 90 feet is required, and 2, Section 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts, and Section 330-83C, yards, to allow the pergola to be located within the required front yard for the principal building. 2, for the proposed pool, Section 330-6 that references Section 330-11 as it relates to Section 330-5 definition of lot line, front, paragraph B, for the accessory rear yard setback of 57.3 feet where 60 feet is required. And 2, Section 330-11 for the accessory front yard setback of 54 feet where 90 feet is required. And Section 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and Section 330-83C, yards, to allow the pool to be located within the required front yard for the principal building. 3, for the proposed spa. 1, Section 330-6 that references Section 330-11 for the accessory rear yard setback of 57.4 feet where 60 feet is required. 2, Section 330-11 for an accessory front yard setback of 75 feet where 90 feet is required. And 3, Section 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and Section 330-83C, yards, to allow the spa to be located within the required front yard for the principal building. 4, for the proposed balcony over the swimming pool. Section 330-83B1, to allow the balcony over the patio and the balcony over the swimming pool to encroach greater than 8 feet into the required front yard. And 5, for the proposed second-story cantilevers on the north side of the dwelling, Section 330-11 for a principal front yard setback of 55 feet where 80 feet is required, and on the proposed west addition, and a principal front yard setback of 68 feet where 80 feet is required on the required proposed east addition. In addition, relief is granted for the following principal rear yard setbacks from Town Code Section 330-83K, yards, as it relates to Section 330-11. 1, for a proposed second-story addition to the west side of the existing dwelling, a setback of 23.7 feet where 50 feet is required. 2, for a proposed second-story addition to the east side of the dwelling, a setback of 30.1 feet where 50 feet is required. And 3, for a second-story addition on the east side of the dwelling, a setback of 31.6 feet. These variances are granted as shown on the survey prepared by, Gary Benz, LS, last revised February 28, 2025, and the plans and elevations prepared by Salvador Croce, RA, of C2 Architecture Plus Design, last revised July 20, 2023. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicants have already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including 1, that the applicant and all successors and interests maintain the existing vegetative screening and further plant and maintain any new vegetation as shown on the landscape plan prepared by Arias Design, LA, last revised March 14, 2024. And 2, ensuring that no stormwater runoff be discharged into Burnett's Creek in the Great Peconic Bay.
Second, and bravo.
Thank you. Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Mastonik.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, next is Bob.
Hey, Michael and Dorothy Stone, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-6-1-45. This application is for property located at 9 Cedar Lane, Noyak. Applicant seeks variances to legalize a second-story addition and for a two-story addition, including an attached garage to an existing dwelling located on an undersized, non-conforming lot. While this board does not condone construction done without permits, it does find that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of Town Code. 1, to legalize a second-story addition to an existing one-story dwelling. Town Code Section 330-84D, pyramid height for a pyramid encroachment in the amount of 87.72 cubic feet on the southwest side of the dwelling. For a proposed two-story addition on the east side of the dwelling, Town Code Section 330-115D1, continuance for a principal total side yard setback of 34.6 feet where 40 feet is required, where 40 feet is existing, and Town Code Section 330-115D2 for proposed principal rear yard setback of 31.3 feet where 32.9 feet is existing on a non-conforming lot, as shown in the survey prepared by John F. Baralinski, licensed land surveyor, dated October 1st, 2024, and for floor plans and elevations prepared by Matthew LeBrake, registered architect, last dated April 8th, 2025. Granted, the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Mastonik.
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, Julie, you're next.
Yes. Kevin Chisholm, Suffolk County Town Map 900-112-2-6. This application is for property located at 918 North Sea Road, North Sea. Applicant seeks variances to legalize a detached garage constructed pursuant to a permit that was issued by the town in error. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a detached garage. 1, Town Code Section 330-6, General Regulations that references Town Code Section 330-11, Residence District Table of Dimensional Regulations for an accessory distance from the front lot line setback of 36.5 feet, where 40 feet is required. 2, Town Code Section 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts, and Town Code Section 330-83C, yards, to allow the detached garage to be located within both the required front yard and the required total side yard for the principal building. And 3, Town Code Section 330-76A, to allow the distance between the main building house and the garage to be 3.8 feet where a minimum of 5 feet is required, as shown on the survey prepared by David H. Fox, LS, last updated January 27, 2025, and the floor plans and elevations prepared by Jeffrey P. Gibson, dated April 1, 2025. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Mr. Mastonik.
Aye.
Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, last one. This is for Vasilios Sarlanus Trust and Janice Sarlanus Trust, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-230-3-23. This application is for property located at 308 East Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays. Applicant seeks variances for the placement of an existing pool within the required side and total side yards on a non-conforming lot located in the RWB zoning district, where the swimming pool was built pursuant to a building permit that was issued in error. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts, and Section 330-83C, yards, to allow an existing swimming pool to remain within the required minimum and total side yards for the principal building on a non-conforming lot, as shown on the survey prepared by Floyd Carrington, LS, of Raynor, Marks, and Carrington Surveying, dated July 16, 2024. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including, 1, the revision of the survey to depict the required wetlands non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer as established pursuant to the covenant recorded with the Suffolk County Clerk on July 15, 2013, under Liber D 000127736, page 533, prior to the issuance of any certificate for the swimming pool. 2, ensuring that no stormwater runoff be discharged into the adjoining body of water. And 3, the installation and maintenance of additional vegetative screening on the west side of the premises by the applicant and all successors in interest.
Second.
Ms. Kane.
Aye.
Mr. Mastrobio. Mr. Redpath.
Aye.
Mr. McDonald.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Do I have a motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're closed.
Okay.
Thank you.